Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host Richard Lewis. Joining me as he often does is Duncan Thorin Shields, the esports historian. Sam's pressing the buttons. I haven't talked to anyone in days, like literally no one.
Is there any reason for that?
Just been busy packing, mate. Just getting ready for the move back to the UK and trying to traverse. So it's nice to have a bit of company.
At least you actually do mean literally packing to go home. I thought, like, fucking hell, he's packing as well. Like, you know what?
I'm packing heat.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm packing heat. That's how I approach podcasts with you these days. I come armed to the fucking teeth. It's the only way. I've seen angry.
Can't
Twitter
trust anyone nowadays, mate.
You can't, mate. So yeah, before we get into the show, which by the way, there's not really. It's going to be a slow news week. We don't talk about what's been going on at the Blast, but I suppose we'll have to pan it out.
Yeah,
which is fine. We'll obviously give a shout out to our sponsors. If you go, you can see as well. We've got lovely banners at the top, which will be blurred if you're watching on YouTube. But if you go to .com/RLS, if you want to place any bets on any esports events, they're the platform to do it on. It's a great environment, and there's all sorts of bonuses and promotions. They've got a new thing coming out that I was meant to plug today, but it got delayed. So I don't know if I should mention it. So I'm not going to. But they have got a new thing. So, but it's irrelevant because it's.
I've got one thing to say to your audience, right?
Yeah, what's
just
that?
Because
you're all cunts.
I actually do think genuinely some of them haven't just thought this one through, right? So one of the things they love to do on YouTube, if you ever look at the comments, is timestamp exactly when Sam forgot to beep out the word.
I know, right? Yeah. Just do YouTube's fucking job for them, yeah.
If you actually want this show to continue, I'd suggest not saying essentially to YouTube, here's a handy dandy way to just skip through all these hours of content and find that word that you want to ban Richard's channel for. That's actually doing the opposite of helping us, believe it or not. I don't think you're helping us. You're not. That's the reason why that whole snitches thing is a real thing in certain communities.
You could always just DM Sam, like, as well. Like, well, that's another thing. Like, he does have a Twitter account. I know it's @lolbainlaw, so you'll never be able to fucking find him because he's a moron. And like, why you don't even play League?
I don't use him, mate. He's arsed. I don't even tweet, mate.
It is the fact that it has attached to it, though, Sam. Though that is the most cringe part of the account.
It's for laughing, mate. It's lols for laughing, not for
actually. Right, okay, fair enough.
It wasn't when I made it, like, but it is now.
Oh, what is this? What's up? I
know. Listen to this shit.
That's bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, insane politician bullshit.
It works, though.
Yeah, he made it because he thought he was going to go big in fucking League of Legends, didn't he?
Ah, fucking hell, no.
He hit like gold 5, and he was like, I'm going to be a player. Lol, Bainlaw, check me out.
All in, mate.
Trying to get in teams with Broken Shard and everything. I remember, mate.
Fucking hell, Broken Shard of all people.
What a legend, eh? I miss that cunt. I really do. We had good times. I remember First Blood, the old podcast days. Those were something to behold. We still talk like very briefly on occasion. I'd say like every 6 months we throw a message out to see how we're all doing. He's still involved in League sort of tangentially. Yeah. So I have like little to no interest in that scene, although it does throw up some interesting drama. Yeah, I know, right? I've seen what goes on Reddit. It hasn't really improved in the 6.
I mean, the joke about League, mate, is here's the difference, right? In CSGO, if I didn't cause any drama at all, the scene would pretty much be quite similar. Like, most of the shit that people call drama is actually just journalism, like, pointing out that people are liars, which obviously is verboten in the modern day and makes you a piece of shit. But in terms of, like, League of Legends, mate, that scene would be the most boring scene ever without drama. Like, the actual games can't carry that game. They have to have drama 24/7 around every interview, every talk show appearance, everything I fucking do. Like, those people, that's how you know, just to make this about esports, that's how you know that this whole push to go mainstream was a mistake. Because so many of the people who came in don't actually like the games. Like, what I like about Counter-Strike is watching good games of Counter-Strike. Like, listen, if there's some drama on the side, sometimes that can be interesting depending on who it is. But that would never overshadow the games. Like, if that happens and the games aren't interesting enough, I'll be out. Like, fuck it, I'm out the scene. There's people who follow, like, League of Legends who, like, would never, ever watch, like, the Korean League or something, but who think that, like, the latest drama in Double Lift's the most fascinating shit ever, Like, it actually just makes you think, what's the point of fucking esports at that point? It's just a bad reality show.
I think that's what a lot of people are here for, though, isn't it? Like, I mean,
sort of.
Yeah, I think the drama aspect of it, especially because how, like, esports interfaces with social media. I think the drama aspect of it all is actually way more appealing to a lot of
it's
people.
way more compelling, as sure.
Yeah, it's like they play the game. They're not really all that interested in the scene, but they could probably tell you like one or two good teams or one or two really good players. And then the rest of the shit they're into is like all the drama and the social media and making sure they're there for a good cancellation struggle session when they come up. You know, that's what really drives it. Right, go on then. Let's talk about something.
All right.
Let's start with the news. Valve finally got off their ass. They, like a dragon, sat on a fucking
This one made
pile of...
no sense. I can already tell where we're going. So let's go on. Let's do it then.
Yeah. Like a dragon sat on a fucking pile of cash in a cave that occasionally wakes up to maybe burn down a village, you know, every fucking 100 years or something. Valve decided finally to speak on the whole conflict of interest thing. And they ended up issuing an ultimatum, is how it was framed in the reporting, to all of the teams that were involved in these conflict of interests that we found out during the road to Rio. You know, for those that don't remember, MIBR and was an example where the team were owned by 4 people which had ties to other organizations like Cold Zero, who plays for FaZe, Taco and Dead from MIBR, and Zeus, who were in Evil Geniuses. All of these teams were in the competition, owning a 25% stake of a team they were potentially going to play against. So that game, when MIBR played, me, you, other people, DK, we all made a huge fuss about it. And basically said this can't continue. This is like so ridiculous. It's one of the most disgusting examples of conflict of interest. ESL said they were going to hold an investigation. Nothing really seems to have come of that.
And then
yes. And then, although actually I do know a little bit from behind the scenes that, well, we'll get into that. But anyway, so but on the 8th of June, Valve finally sort of spoke up on it and have said that as far as they're concerned, all of the conflicts of interest, which will even include low-level ownership, like Get Right owning a stake in NIP, must be resolved by the time of the major to preserve the integrity of their competition. So we're still in this weird Orwellian, linguistic nightmare of what is resolved, and what are the parameters. And they have at least made it clear the penalty for non-resolution will be that you can't compete at the majors.
Like, put it this way, if a fan who's listening thinks that you're being a bit too petty, they're like, oh, come on, you know what the resolve means. Yes, we all know colloquially what it means, but now we're talking about a world in which Valve is not speaking that way. When you speak in terms of rules, you are supposed to be as specific as possible and even give like thresholds, cases. So for example, to you or I, if you're just a random person, you might think, oh, look, but he sold the team. That resolves it. How do you know that the contract doesn't have a clause saying in a year it reverts back to me? Like, the point is, what does resolved mean in this regard? It's one area where, even though they never actually held to it or in any way followed the precedent, I at least vaguely respect Riot Games, where years and years ago, they said that they would count all future ownership agreements as if you owned the team now, because obviously that wouldn't actually get around these problems. It would just sort of let you obfuscate them. Now, as I say, they didn't apply that, and they were obviously incredibly capricious in what they did anyway. But I at least give them credit for attempting to outline what the rules should be and then apply the rules. I hate it when it's like this and they just make like what Valve loves to do is come in and go, here's the answer, and you go, none of us know what that answer means. I go now, and then they just disappear in the shadows again. It's like, right, well, that helped everyone. Because my problem with this whole statement is this: when they say at the end there that they need to resolve all these ownership conflict of interest so that it can preserve the integrity. There's no integrity to preserve. You've already shot the integrity completely. The second you let MIBR play in that game, or you let anyone else compete in any other competition that involved these ownership you shot that, you killed that integrity. That integrity is gone, because the whole point is we now cannot know that those games were not thrown. We cannot. In fact, we have circumstantial evidence that, I mean, it depends on what the case would be, where people could make an argument they were. Just because you've allowed cross-ownership. That's what happens when you let conflicts of interest exist. So to me, Valve's basically come along and said, you know what? Someone better bloody close this stable door and get that horse back here in 10 hours. And if they do, it never left in the first place. It's like we did. So you have to deal with that, Valve. Because I want to know going forward that this won't happen ever again. There should be strict rules to ensure this is never the case. I personally don't even like this bullshit of like, you've got time to resolve it. They do that because they know they're in a sticky situation where people have made business deals and they'd have to overnight be cancelled. That's tough shit. I'm sorry. That is tough shit. You don't get to go, you have a few years to break all the rules and potentially cheat. But then after that, because the same thing, if people don't know, happened in League of Legends. When they franchised the LCS, there was a group of people who were all within the Golden State Warriors organization or ownership, and three of people within that one sports org had stakes within 3 different teams. I believe the teams was Team Liquid, Cloud9, and Golden Guardians. So what happened was Riot similarly were pushed by people saying, what the fuck is this? Like, how can one guy have ownership and then another guy in the same company have ownership of a different team and they're going to play each other? Riot's response was worse than this. It was, you've got, I think, a year to like divest interest in these teams. So basically for a year, it's fine to match fix, to poach, to potentially even cheat, do whatever the fuck you want, basically. Just at the end of a year, then can you follow the rules? So I'm kind of sick of this precedent in esports generally, because let's be real, these companies could have told us 5 years ago. Like, have you noticed this trend that happens where we pretend like these are issues no one could ever have seen coming? It doesn't matter if me or you tell them years ago, this is going to happen. They always pretend like someone's just invented this thing called conflict of interest. Well, we'll be investigating it and we'll do our best to fix it. It's like from day one, you should have known these things. As soon as money got involved, you should have known these things.
But it's like I said, the reason that esports was so appealing to so many people, and especially scenes that aren't regulated by a developer, is that conflict of interest isn't policed and there are no penalties for engaging.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's why people want to be there in the first place. And, all of these people know this. I mean, I'm supposed to believe that these players that have played in the game for as long as they have can't figure out that why only 25% of a team they might play in an online competition or an offline competition is a bad thing. They can't.
It's by the way, Richard.
I'm supposed to believe that.
If it's not a bad thing and there's nothing suspicious, it's interesting how none of them ever speak about this issue. Have you noticed that? You can't even find one of these same cunts who would never stop tweeting if the water was 1 degree too cold for them at every event. Can't find their way to a Twitter account. They can find a way to come and attack me when they're throwing a tantrum for losing the game, but they can't bother to tweet about teams they own that they're literally playing against in a match right now as part of qualification for the fucking World Championship. And then the same wankers have the gall to go away and sit on boards of fucking CSPPA and go, we must have discussions about things in the community. It's like, fuck you. How about you have a discussion, wanker? Question 1, are you going to actually do anything yourself? No, then shut the fuck up.
I mean, it is ridiculous, right? That when you look over at the Yare and MIPR situation, for example, the level of entanglement was absolutely absurd because let's just call it what it is. So I mean, you've got the wife of Dead is the sort of main manager over there. I'm not trying to detract from her achievements or anything like that by pointing that out. I'm just pointing it out as being a relationship between the two organizations that could throw up an issue. It's actually the least level of conflict of interest, but it's still something worth mentioning. Of course. Then you've got Dead and all his former associates all take a 25% investment stake in the team for an undisclosed amount. We don't know how much. So the money has gone into there. Then the MIPR brand, which is owned by the Immortals Group, parent company, have a written agreement with Yare that if they ever want any of their talent or prospects, they will just buy them. They'll just simply buy them for a fair market price, and Yare will absolutely sell. And there'll be no hardball, no crazy negotiations, no adherence to buyouts. So all of that is in place there, and yet this game was allowed to go ahead. And like you say, Taco, for fuck's sakes, like, oh shit, I'm literally molding. So I'm fucking, they're telling me I can't wear a hat and I look like I'm fucking older than I am. This is an outrage. He'll fucking tweet about anything, that cunt. And yet, not one person has gone, yeah, owning 25% of a team that we played in a important major qualifier probably shouldn't be the kind of thing that we are doing, and it was an error of judgment. There'll be no mea culpa. There'll be no apology, by the way. These guys will quietly sell. I'm going to watch with great interest who the buyers are. And because if it's any family members, yeah, like I certainly hope Valve are going to take a dim view of that too. Probably not. I don't know how far the developer tentacle can really stretch, but I'm going to be watching it with great interest. But the reality is, yeah, we got a lot of these types of conflict of interest in Counter-Strike, and they've been allowed to fester, and it is potentially compromising the integrity of our highest level tournaments.
It's also just stupid as fuck, because, like, why am I not allowed to own an academy team with the express purpose of building up talent to then bring to my main team, but I can do the same thing as long as they're not called my academy team? That makes no fucking sense at all. What does that even mean? That's such a... And by the way, you're only going to get this problem increase in the future, because right now, the actual equity in these teams is worth close to fuck all. And if you know anything about how these guys give out equity, some of them are even giving out that, like, fake equity that you dilute down later and is worth fuck all.
Yeah. It's toilet paper.
That player doesn't know that. He thinks he's got fucking, I've got 5% of the team. So you've got nothing, mate. But okay, when they give that shit out, I've even had these all runners tell me the opposite to what a fan would think. A fan would think, well, listen, you'd never want to give any of that equity away because you're going to sell that team in 10 years for $1 billion. So all the equity you own. No. It's the other way around. They'll tell me, oh, I love giving equity away instead of real money. I have to bring that fucking real money. I'd much rather give the guy a few % of the company, probably can't even sell it himself, or you won't even be able to use it like that. This is going to happen more and more and more, because that's how people are going to negotiate these massive deals when they re-sign people, is they're going to give them a little bit of percentage. Well, the problem with that is that player, essentially, they don't get this now, must now understand by accepting that percentage, I'm telling the world, this is my last ever team, or I'll be selling the equity. If your plan is to keep playing, potentially for a different team, while having equity in your original team, you're actually going out of your way to violate the integrity of the game. Like, that cannot ever be allowed to happen. Could you even imagine in sports, like, fucking if LeBron owned a percentage of the Cleveland Cavaliers and was playing them with the LA Lakers in, like, the final of the NBA or something? That would be outrageous. That could actually happen in Counter-Strike right now. Or it could even have happened in the past. For all we know, it did happen. Like, maybe for all we know, maybe Carrigan did still have his percentage in Astralis every time he was playing him in all those finals in FaZe Clan. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Who's policing it? No one, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and it's like, listen, so the other thing I wanted to point out was, according to this email that HLTV got, and I've got a little bit of insight in this because I was kind of working on this story before it came out and got beat to the punch because I was waiting on a few things to come back because I wanted to find out what the specifics were about, what the parameters were going to be on what you could and couldn't own and like whether it would be zero tolerance. Now, HLTV have characterized it as zero tolerance. I'll be completely honest. I don't think necessarily zero tolerance is the way to go. I think even in mainstream sports, you do have situations where players, not usually players, but for example, let's say team owners. Team owners might own, they're like the 80% stakeholder and chairman of the board of the one football club they work at, but they might own 5% of a mate's football club as well. And that's within the framework of what's acceptable. If it's, for example, like I think Mike Ashley, the fat cunt, owns like obviously Newcastle, but he owns a bit of Rangers. I think he owns a bit.
Is there a rule like they can't be in the same league or division or something?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's something like that. I haven't got the specifics in front of me.
I'm guessing it would be though.
It before in the past. So with Counter-Strike, it's kind of hard because obviously you can't say, well, not in the same country because it's a global game. We exist in a digital space. It does get a little bit more complicated. But I always thought one of the great things was players being able to have little bits of equity, like real equity, like you build this brand and you will have something to sell. Or if the brand sells, we are going to give you a portion of that money for helping us sell. It makes sense to me. I think that's perfectly acceptable. The problem now is if it is zero tolerance, well, those kind of deals can't happen anymore, and that's harmful to players' earnings. Or even if it's capped, let's say 2%. I mean, 2% isn't all that much. It's obviously better than nothing. But yeah, if it goes low, then it is potentially harmful to a player's long-term future in terms of the earnings. But of course, it's everyone else that's fucked it up for the players. It's not necessarily Valve coming in and fucking it up for the players. It's like, again, Valve always have this like kind of stance where it's like they'll stand back and watch the kids play in the sandpit, and they only really get involved when people start fucking braining each other for the stickle bricks. That's kind of like when Valve get involved. And unfortunately, we've had the Nicola Nyholms of this world, and God knows how many other people, before him, all trying to run a fast one and have multiple team ownership. The Virtus Pros with the ES Force. bullshit. You know, there's just been so many attempts to lock down the scene, even from ESL itself, which was entangled in team ownership and God knows what else. Not to mention all the Bitcraft holding stuff and where all that money goes. It's you know, it's been a mess. It's been a mess. I mean, esports is still just a minefield of conflicts of interest, and I've been talking about it now for, I don't know, for what,
actually,
5,
you know
6 years.
something. There'll be a lot of
We're
people
not really any further forward.
who obviously won't know much beyond the last year or so. They usually are in esports. You know, like newer people have come in the scene. So if people don't know, I think actually now is the perfect time to crystallize basically what Blast was up to the whole time. And it's obvious at this point in time. Richard's theory that he had years ago came to pass. Here's quite obviously what the Nickel and Iams of the world are trying to do. They wanted to own 3 or 4 different teams, make a league. Remember how many teams they originally played at each Blast event? I think it was, what, 6 teams? It was going to be like, they'd have their 3 or 4, then they'd have a couple of other teams would partner with them, might be the big teams in the world, maybe it'd be a Na'Vi or an SK or FaZe, whoever it was at the time, and they would have run their own little circuit, and because they'd have had most of the teams in it, and then agreements with the other big teams, they'd have had insane power. They'd have owned the team that was the best team, and the league, and a bunch of the other teams that competed in it. Like, the end game's obvious there. They just didn't get to do it, because as they were bringing all the pieces together, they kept getting someone threw a wrench into this engine here, and then this one get taken, and then eventually they had to go their own separate ways and just do the businesses separately. But like, I think you were right on that original theory. It just seems obvious now that was the game plan. It's just we only saw the dots gradually get connected, didn't we?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, the further back you go, everyone was trying to get to that goal, right? I mean, let's look at the Force, right? Before Nickel and Ion, before the Blast and Refresh. Look what they were trying to do. Same thing. They SK, Na'Vi, the media rights for Na'Vi, Virtus Pro, which were the original team that took the money from Uzmanov Holdings under the name Virtus Pro Holdings, and then they changed to ES Force. But then look at the other stuff they bought, right? They bought tournaments. They bought a broadcaster, you know, a broadcasting studio. Everyone was trying to get the one-stop shop. It was like they wanted to be not just have a league with teams in it that buy into it. They wanted the teams to be theirs as well, that they could either sell off as franchise slots or just keep in control. And when you get to and also control the broadcast, and in many cases make it look at all these sponsors we've got, and it's all their subsidiary businesses. That's the other thing the ES Force was doing. So they wanted to. It was the illusion of a perfectly functioning ecosystem, but it was all controlled by one cash flow. You know, at that point, you're building the WWE. There's absolutely nothing in the world that stops you going, you know, okay, well, we own the betting platform. We've had all these bets go this way. We want to make some money, so you're throwing this game to the team that you own and control. And if you don't do it, you're all in the fucking poorhouse. And we'll put it through our broadcaster and get all the viewership money. You know, that was literally what ES Force could have done. That's what they were building. That got shut down. Then you go back before that. There was more crazy shit because people forget this. I don't know why nobody remembers the story about Jens Hilgers, who was a co-owner of G2 while he was still on the ESL board. And during this time when G2 and FaZe were trying to make some sort of like crazy deal, Jens Hilgers leveraged his position on the ESL board and basically threatened FaZe Banks and all those guys and that Norwegian dude that came in and fucked Banks over, and basically said, like, you'll never play in any ESL competitions if we don't get that team. So, you know, that's 2015. And that story's just like buried now. Like, no one remembers that. So everyone.
It's funny how they remember every fucking tweet we make, but they can't remember real, potentially criminal actions that people are taking in the scene on a massive scale.
Let's be honest. Like, how much more juice do you think we've got in the fucking tank? I'm telling you, because, well, look, I said in 2015 the day was coming when like all the old school motherfuckers would get pushed out. It's happening next.
Oh, it basically is.
Yeah, next year to 18 months, I think. So I'm going to enjoy my last time in esports. I'm going to take down a few heavy hitters, but I ain't going to get stressed, and I'm not going to. You know, these aren't my fights anymore. Like, people have made the decision. You want your fucking watered down, corporate approved, corporate backed, fake esports.
Oh, they do deserve it. Yeah. At this point, a lot of the people deserve what they're going to get.
Yeah. all the people that were banging on me for things that objectively didn't happen, enjoy what you're left with. Have fun playing with it. Because these companies, they didn't just come into your sandpit. They came in and they replaced the fucking sand with dried up dog turds, and that's what you're left with. And I've seen it too many times now. You'll all be like, God, if only there was somebody to speak out against all of this bullshit. Yeah, there won't be. You drove them all out because they tweeted something you didn't like one time, you fucking morons. You deserve it. I hope you all get fleeced. I hope you all get robbed blind. I hope the thing that you love is just withers and dies before your fucking eyes. And you just left going with, yeah, maybe I was part of the problem. Fucking mull that over, you fucking cunt.
The worst thing is as well, it's people in the industry as well. Like, I mean, I'll add a lot of pro players to the list, quite frankly. Mate, the number of times I've had pro players, like I won't say who it is, but they'll know, obviously, if they listen to the podcast. There was someone who in the last week contacted me who is not a friend of mine. They're not someone I've had like close relations with or ever been friendly with. They're actually someone who years and years ago made fun of me publicly in front of their whole team and were all laughing at me. Thought it was hilarious. And now they're contacting me, asking me to help them get a job on a team.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's the goal of what these people are like in this industry. That when they don't think you can be of any use to them, you're a piece of shit. You're an object of derision. The second that actually you're valuable to them, they come as though they were your mate. Like, that's the whole thing people wouldn't understand about this whole device thing. Is, first of all, the thing that pisses him off is me literally trying to jailbreak him out of the fucking matrix, which if he actually was honest about, he himself knows is fucked up behind the scenes. But that's not what anyone understands. Everyone just goes, oh my God, I can't believe you're allowed to even tweet insults at major winners. Like, oh, are they not men? Oh, my mistake. I didn't know there was some sort of like ascended immortals. I thought it was your man talking to another man. And one of them disrespected the one that had helped the other one a lot. So he said, go fuck yourself, basically. If you can't understand that, you haven't even lived in the real world, that you literally live in some sort of fucked up Nickelodeon 90s simulacrum of a reality. You don't know what real life is. Like, try coming into a pub in Middlesbrough and do what Device did and see what happens after that. I tell you what, they don't just go, hey, loser. They go, it gets a lot worse than that, mate. I would expect the same myself if I went in and did that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to bring that up because I didn't really sort of see the relevance in a broader context. I saw people doing videos and making articles about it, like Thorin has argument with the, like, oh yeah, that'll be. I'm sure that.
On, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Like, fuck me. Is that really? That's how slow a Newsweek it's been.
Exactly.
That's how slow a Newsweek it's been. But it's like, oh, Thorin having an argument with a player? Oh no, like that. When's the world is ending? Insane.
So much for journalism.
Yeah, I know.
Those are always my favorite ones. I love it. I love all those ones.
But yeah, it's just like I saw that and I thought, like, I thought the initial criticism was valid. Like, I mean, it did seem to me with the statements that Dupree put out and Device put out and the things they were saying was essentially it's okay for our team to be shit because we all know why it's shit. Also, we're totally on board with the project that's making us shit. P.S. We're above. Don't meme on us and don't criticize. Come on, man.
Exactly. Like, grow up, mate.
Be fucking
You're not
real.
aware, Device, right? It's not your fucking ball that you can just go home with any time. Like, Counter-Strike is our game as well. In fact, you know what? It was my game before it was ever your game, mate. So you can fuck right off. Like, they're acting as though, like, we're coming over to their house to play with their football in their backyard and they can make all the fucking rules up and their mum gets to decide when the game's up. What are you talking about, you daft cunt? You're just a pro player. Guess what? If you do shit in the same way you would make fun of someone else, we'll make fun of you. How do you like that? If you don't like it, either get a fucking pack of tissues, B, log off Twitter, or C, actually try winning in the game, you daft cunt.
Yeah, and it was like, people seem to misunderstand as well. Like, you called him a loser, not because he is a loser in a broader context, but he had just lost the game.
Of course. And he was acting as a bad loser, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't understand. Like, I look at drama and I just see, like, so much, like, sort of dishonesty around it. Like, people don't even engage. It's like I've always said this about, like, politics. When somebody says something that is already a statement or an action that they perform an action that is worth criticizing on its own merits, what you got to go and embellish it for? Why you got to add a lie just to be more? It's like you can't even motivate yourself to be outraged about the initial thing, so you invent something else to be angry about. I just see it all the time. There's this tweet that gets circulated every time from just like some fucking, nobody meme account where it just said 90% of Twitter is pretending that a guy exists and then being outraged about that guy. And it sort of is true. Like, I mean, it just is. It's like, oh my God, Thorin is saying that Device is a loser and never won a tournament. It's like, no, he's not saying any of that. How dare he disrespect? Like, the idea that you can't be critical of people who were once great and are now struggling is also like just as fucking insane concept to me. But I took a little bit of umbrage with the Dupree statement when it came out, where it was like, people want us to be the same as Astralis. Yeah, your fans do. Yeah, of course they do. I want Newcastle to win every game, every year, consistently. I want the Raiders to win every game, every year, go to the Super Bowl, win that. These might be unrealistic expectations, but it's what I want. Now, I can temper my expectations based on the squad, and I can maybe realign my goals based on how things are going. But I still want the team to win, and I still expect the team to do things to facilitate winning. Right now, what Astralis management are doing, what has gone on in that team, is not facilitating that.
Of course not.
So that has to be worth criticism. And in fact, your biggest fans should be the ones that are the most outraged and angry about it. It doesn't bother me if Astralis never win another fucking series and fall off the face of the map. I couldn't give a shit. I'm not motivated in that way, but like, your fans care. The people that bought your shirts care. The people that go out and support your sponsors care. The people that follow you on Twitter care. The people that blindly, upvote all the fucking clips of you performing well at a tournament and congratulating you when you win, and they all care. They're the people you're saying, listen, guys, don't criticize us. No, come on. You can't have it both ways. A lot of players don't understand that, just in general. And listen, I'll go to bat for Device a little bit here, mate. Like, I've spent 2 weeks looking into all of Astralis' shit, and I'm about ready to drop an article about everything. It's been a fucking rough time over there. Like, legit, those players are fucking frazzled.
Should probably attack people who literally you've never done anything for in your entire life, but who have unquestionably helped you for years at a time. Of course.
Oversensitive.
You know what Device has ever... I'm not exaggerating. People go check this up. Fact check it. Do you know what Device has done for me in my entire career, Richard? 1 5-second ident for my YouTube channel. He's never appeared on a show I've done. He's never done an interview with me. I've never done anything with him. He's never helped me. He's never done anything. I could show you the DMs, mate. It's just like me writing fucking novels to this guy for years. The idea after that, he's going to come right at me. And in the same scenario, as you're saying with Dupree's comment, they had the fucking gall to everyone's face tell us that as we're watching Astralis be dog shit with these different players that aren't Astralis quality, that, you know what, we're not even allowed to criticize those players because they're not the issue. So apparently, Richard, the issue in those games wasn't Yugi having like the worst stats ever, or Snappi not even being an IGL and just being a bad player. Apparently, it was the other players as well. It was all of them. As usual, we have to all accept some fucking cult programming that our own eyes deceive us, and that it's just like magic that they didn't win those games, and we're supposed to just give them time. By the way, give them time for what? That's not a real lineup. Snappi was never a real member of Astralis. He was only standing in because Zipnik at the last second disappeared. That was supposed to be Esatag when Esatag's contract comes up at the beginning next month. So the whole thing's a crock of shit. It's the idea that they're going to build 50 problems and be complicit in all these problems being built I have done nothing to do with. And I'm in fact trying to expose, in part for their own benefit. And then they're going to have the fucking temerity and the gall to attack me over that. Get the fuck out of my face.
No, I think
Get the fuck out of my face with that shit.
Yeah, I think that's fucking reasonable. But yeah, like I say, I mean, like what people are going to realize in the article is like there's been a strange relationship there with the management for a while, and like
take it all on me then.
Yeah,
do you imagine, by the way, Richard, that these players will ever apologise? Yeah. They won't ever.
Oh, no,
I can tell you right now. Listen, most players, like the Nick players, for example, you know the reason why I've never attacked the Nick players for being complicit for years in borderline criminal behaviour? Because at least they didn't attack anyone publicly. The last time they did that was when Freiberg said that thing about you, which behind the scenes, it was known that he basically was pushed into doing that. So I thought that was over the line personally, but that was years ago. That was 2015. So at least the NIP players had the fucking sense to shut the fuck up and definitely don't attack the people exposing your dog's criminal behavior.
I'll say this as well, like, I mean, because this is what I mean as well. Like, I'm obviously like sick in the head and a glutton for punishment, but like when this article does drop, right, like, I know exactly how this pans out because it's the same old, same old. So the article drops. I'm going to be called a liar. I'll probably be called a liar by the players, which the article will ostensibly help because it adds perspective to everything that's been going on behind the scenes. The players will obviously call me a liar. The org will call me a liar. And then when that happens, because this is how it always works, every article, I go first. Oh my God, Richard Lewis, the best, the greatest journalist of our times. Isn't it so incredible that he gets all of these scoops and knows so much? What would the scene be without Richard Lewis? I, for one, am glad Richard Lewis, the classic Reddit chain. And then someone will come in and go, but didn't he choke somebody? And it gets downvoted on Monday because Monday I'm a good guy. But then the org's going to say I'm a liar, and then all those same people and other people are going to go, see, there's always two sides to every story. Richard Lewis, he's just a clickbait journalist, isn't he? I mean, he wouldn't be writing it to Certo if he was a real reporter. Am I right? Am I right? And didn't he choke Loader 500 upvotes on Tuesday? So, and then 6 months later, it's all going to come out that everything I said was completely accurate. And the same people who said I was a liar are going to go, yeah, he did have something. He did. He was onto it. He was completely accurate. And then everyone's going to go, yeah, well, he did choke Loader, though, 2,000 upvotes because it's a fucking Saturday. You understand?
That is what
so
that's like,
yeah, that's just what my life is. And it's like I go through this cycle every time. And it's just like, what's the point? Anyone else would have just blown the brains out. Like, to just be stuck in that fucking cycle over and over again. Like, full Cassandra complex. To be completely accurate in everything you say, but no one listens to you. You're just powerless to sort of... create any positive impressions on the space. And everyone wants to talk about these like transgressions that are mostly works of fiction. It's mad. It's mad. So I know that's coming, by the way.
I've said this myself so many times.
Space?
Like, I've made that statement before because what's funny about it is it sounds like some grand statement, but it's just a fact. I've said I have never lied in my professional career in literally like the 19 years I've worked in esports. Now, what's funny about that is nobody has ever rebutted that comment. Nobody has ever produced a lie. No one has ever been able to say that's not true. Look at it. And by the way, you would only need one statement unravels that whole thing I said. No one's ever done it, but simultaneously, people all the time who are just fans of these teams who are not as TSM fans, Astralis fans, it's always just that I'm a liar, I've exaggerated everything, it's not true, I'm making it up. Yet they can't ever find the one lie. Just one lie. That's all I'm asking. Just find one in 19 years. They can't find one. Because it's not about facts in this case. What they really mean is this. If they were honest, and this would actually solve so much problems, if they just said, I feel like you're not telling the truth because I don't like what you're saying and I hope that the people I like wouldn't behave that way. You know what? If they said that statement, Richard, I would still say you actually have something seriously wrong with your brain. But you know what? At least you're honest. At least I can understand what you're saying there. And you know what? That is a valid statement. You feel that way. You're not right. You are deeply ill, but that is actually valid for you to feel. Whatever is going on in your psychology, I could understand that whether the facts are match up or not, you could actually feel that way. The problem is they don't say that. They just say that you're lying, which is a statement of fact and can be proven not to be the case.
So, I mean... I guess while we're on Astralis, we can probably talk a little bit about sort of the performance at the Blast and kind of the weird drama that was brewing behind the scenes. So I don't know if this is talking out of school, but I'm just going to say it anyway. There was a bunch of tweets that sort of came out. I think you alluded to them on Twitter, where it was like they were talking about crazy people behind the scenes and stuff. I think basically what had happened was Snappi was meant to be playing as a stand-in. The Snappi transfer from Heroic to Tiger is one of the most weird and convoluted things I've ever heard about.
It's mental. People know the details of that shit.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that it was like they bought him and then I think they decided they didn't want to and wanted to reverse the deal. And then Heroic were like, well, okay. And then I think Tiger decided, no, actually go on then, we'll keep him because we can sell him. But then they had to loan him out because Astralis wanted him as a stand-in. And I don't think the deal was 100% complete, as in the paperwork hadn't been done, but I think the money maybe had been transferred. It was like some mad shit going on anyway. So it was something like that. And then basically the Astralis players thought Snappi wasn't going to be allowed to play.
It's on the day of the first match, I believe. I think
on the day of their first match before NIP. So that's why they were losing their shit, because they thought, because obviously they fucked over Heroic. I mean, Like if the more and more you fucking learn about the Astralis group and the brand and the people who are involved, they are like marauding warlords in the Danish scene. Like if you come close to any of them, they've got the juice to fuck you up, turn your lights off permanent. They got ties to the government. They've got all of the major funding in Denmark, which remember this is a country with like 5.5, maybe 6 million people. It's not a big esports market. They got all the money fucking flowing towards them. You can't even speak out about these cunts if you operate in that scene because they will just fuck your shit up. And as a result, go look into it. When has there ever been a negative story about Astralis, actually? Think about all of the stuff.
Oh, no, by the way, I'll tell everyone a little story because you can corroborate this one. I had a journalist from a major, I think it was a major like sports website or newspaper in Denmark reach out to me. I think it was maybe like a year and a half ago. And this guy told me, I've heard you're the guy who knows all the stuff about blasting Astralis. Like, I want to cover it and write a big story about it. So I thought, this is perfect, right? Big story like that gets out into either the sports world where half these fucking scum fucks come from, or just the general Danish scene. It's a small country. This is a big team that represents them. It'd be interesting, right, if some of this stuff was out there. And what happened was me and Richard fed this guy all the info we had at the time, and the guy literally swallowed the fucking story. And when I brought it up to him later, like, what happened to that story, he just did the classic dirtbag move, like where he didn't understand that I am from the world of journalism as well. So he just tried to give me all the reasons as to why, like, well, you know, in the end, I'm not quite sure if that was the sort of story our readers would want. Like, give us some absolute lies and nonsense, where he just essentially admitted, like, yeah, I was just told to fucking bury this story. So like, that's all you need to know right there. Like, remember, the world you're all presented in, the fantasy movie of the modern world, is that a journalist wants to break all these stories because he's going to get attention and money and acclaim, and he's going to win a Pulitzer Prize. No, in the real world, that only happens when they want a story to come out. The stories you're allowed to print are the ones that, it's normally like this. Some other evil bastard has a reason to let you print the story because it battles an evil bastard he doesn't like. You don't ever get to just write stories, just carte blanche about criminal behavior. That does not happen. Like, that is only allowed to happen. So, like, that just showed me. I didn't even waste another second of my time with the Danish scene after that because I knew, right, well, if they can do this, there's no point fucking wasting my time thinking real methods are going to do. It's going to have to be esports people take them down.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, I remember that distinctly as well. But yeah, no one, you can't get anything negative about them. Now I'll just tell you, if you want to fucking like hold Astralis's feet to the flames, right? There was why does no one talk about their sponsorship deal with esports.com? Why does no one ever bring that up anymore?
Put it this way, mate. Me and you can't do a tweet, but they're allowed to associate with every criminal under the sun, and at no point does that ever stain their reputation. What is this shit? Like, how are you guys so stupid? That's what I don't understand. Like, you literally, even the people watching this show now, you would get more mad about a tweet saying someone's a loser, who's being aggressive, by the way, than you would about literally finding out someone had hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from you. You don't give a fuck about that.
Right? They took $2 million from esports.com. And that group that was behind that sponsorship is being investigated for all sorts of shit. That money.
I've even heard that some of the people behind that like got completely ripped off. Like as in the main people just wrecked everyone within that shit.
Yeah, it was like one of these bullshit ICO, you know, fucking buzzword word salad, you know, nonsense. And yet they attained legitimacy in the esports space by being associated with Astralis. Again, memory hold. No one brings it up. No one brings it up. This is an organization that absolutely gets zero criticism whatsoever because of all the people associated with the org domestically. So in Denmark, it's completely verboten. You're not allowed to say anything bad about them. And I imagine when I drop this article, it's probably going to be Richard Lewis is going to get more threats of fucking legal action because that's been a fucking consistent down the years. Everyone's always wanting to sue me. And then they realize, oh, shit, Discovery works for both sides. And then that's usually when the lawsuits tend to stop. But anyway, I'll just talk. So the Snappi deal was completely fucking ridiculous. But Astralis, I think, felt that heroic were going to stop Snappi from playing for them in that NIP game.
Which they should have, if they'd have actually had any fucking balls between their legs.
Yeah, but then I think it turned out that because the deal was done, it was it was up. It was like deferred to Tiger, and Tiger agreed. I think is what went on.
Put it this way, my understanding of what went on was that Heroic could actually have fucked Astralis on this, and they chose not to for personal reasons because of Snappi, and that as a result, as far as I'm concerned, what that CEO said of Heroic, where he was like, "I'm not happy with this FPX deal that Astralis has fucked up with Estertag, I'll be suing them." I don't believe you, mate. So I'll wait until I see you go into a courtroom, because until that happens, as far as I'm concerned, you got unlucky, which is that you got to be the guy who said, "You know what? He better not come in here again because I'll kick his ass." And then the very next week, the guy came in and you were like, "Well, it wouldn't be right to cause trouble right now, would you?" Like, you got caught, you got shown up. You literally made a grand statement to imply, by the way, because there's an implication there. Well, look, I'm not involved with Astralis. They're totally different companies now, of course. This is outrageous. And then when it actually came down to a matter that needed to battle against Astralis, you basically helped Astralis. So you know what? I don't believe you, homie. Prove it.
Yeah, so that was kind of a weird one. The performance at the Blast was pretty much as you'd expect. I mean,
it's garbage.
Yeah, the climb down in quality. I mean, I to be fair, I did expect it, but I mean,
no. But let me make a
Snappi
statement.
and Yugi were really off the pace.
This statement will show people how bad Astralis is. It's not like they've just got issues. No, right? They were in a group where you will know all the names of the other teams in the group except one team. It was a team called SAW. Now, I'm not talking about Havu's in-game leader. I'm talking about like the second best team from Portugal, right? So not a famous team at all. Now, the format for Blast was that only one team in the group fails to make the playoffs. And that ended up being SAW. You're thinking, seems perfectly reasonable so far, Thorin? No, the only reason SAW didn't make the playoffs, because if SAW had identical points to Astralis and an identical number of wins to Astralis, is because SAW lost the head-to-head to Astralis. So basically, if SAW had won a single round against ENCE, additional to what they won, they would have been in the playoffs, and Astralis would have missed the playoffs in a group where only one team failed. That's how bad. And that was the only map in the entire tournament that Astralis won. They lost the other 5 or 6 maps that they played. That's how bad this team is.
Yeah, and obviously the nip game at the DreamHack Masters thing was like real. I mean, like I tweeted something out about it when I looked at the stats, but it's like it's just so hard to believe anybody realistically thinks Yugi and Snappi were ever. I mean, like even as stand-ins, like what there weren't better options out there. I mean, all of it just feels so fucking rushed.
And it feels like a team that had no money to spend on these players, so they had to get the people who just could play for almost free. Like, because as you're saying, there's plenty of players that are good that you could sign for money.
Yeah, I mean, so again, like as of I won't spoil the article for when it comes out, and you can all call me a liar about it. But one of the things that I discovered while I was kind of researching it is they do have this kind of habitual thing of like, for the League of Legends team, for example, in November, I think it was, they signed a player called Upset, and the players had to agree to take a reduction in salary so they could create the budget for that player to join, because the players really wanted him. And obviously, when the coronavirus thing happened in March, I think it was, the management essentially came out and said to everyone at the org, you've got to take a 30% reduction in salary. Like, we need this to sort of, stay afloat. Now, I never understood, by the way, the argument. If you're an esports team and you're blaming coronavirus for impacting on your operational costs, kind of a bit weird, isn't it? You've saved all that money. You don't have to travel.
Yeah, your operational costs went down.
Yeah, like literally your operational costs went down, not up. Not a single sponsor's cancelled on you because they're all.
And by the way, I'll just go ahead.
Multi-year agreement.
I'll just go ahead and say that for everyone out there who hasn't figured this out as well. All the coronavirus showed was that classic fucking saying that Warren Buffett saying, like, you only know who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. What that showed was exactly the whole reason Flashpoint as a project exists, is that everyone's just pissing money into a fucking black hole. And so the second that the guy who comes and gives you the money that you're throwing into the furnace goes, oh, I'm out of money at the moment, you're fucked. There's no business. There is no business. You're not making money. You're literally just getting to keep some of the money they give you that you don't throw into the fucking black hole. Like, it's ridiculous. The whole thing's a joke.
Yeah. So that was like a weird one. And anyway, so obviously you can imagine, can't you? I mean, like what? So we, the players don't get a holiday. Like when I looked at the numbers of what they did at the end of 2019, it is mind blowing actually what they did. So I was like researching this article, and I just looked at the end of 2019, which is basically where all of the problems kind of start to begin. They played 5 tournaments in a 43-day span, where they had to travel from Denmark to China, China to the US back to Denmark, then Denmark to Bahrain, then back to Denmark in 43 days. And they won 3 of those tournaments. So they had deep runs and no time off at all. Like, it's no wonder these fucking players were burnt out. It's no wonder.
Oh, there's by the way the hidden part that no one's talking about, because in esports everyone always just fucking focuses on some big vague thing and never gets down to brass tacks. I've been thinking about this recently. In fact, I've got an episode of Counter-Points that's in the tank at the moment that I'm basically going to release in a few days, where one of the suggestions I make in it, I can't believe no one thought of this earlier, right? It's not how many events we have, it's where they're located. If all the events were in Europe, it wouldn't even matter that you went to 15 tournaments. The problem is, like you're saying, you do an event in China, then you go to Brazil, then you go to fucking North America, then you go to Germany, then you go to Russia, then you go back to fucking China. Like, that is an untenable, like, flight plan. Like, no one could do that. We know from sports, you can travel, like, reasonable distances every week or two. That's all right. So here's the point I want to make, right? And I'll make a separate video on it probably as well. So that's why I don't mind giving this one away now. Is one of the best ways that TOs could actually fix the scene for players. Because I'm never going to be on board with the angle of like TOs should just do less events. They're literally competing against each other in a battle to the death, guys. That makes no sense. You can't tell someone to act against their own self-interest and think it's reasonable. But here's how they could not in any way fuck any of their events up, but fix it, is let's at least get some sort of an agreement. Like, for example, if I'm DreamHack and I'm doing my event, it's going to be DreamHack Masters Dallas, and you're doing ESL New York, and someone else is doing fucking some event in, I don't know, let's just make somewhere LA, right? Can't those 3 be next to each other on the calendar? So we just travel within the US for those 3, and then you go to China afterwards, and then we do 2 events in China. Like, the point is, we can have all the same locations, literally just the order that we do them in would make people's lives like 30% better or something crazy.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But this is what I mean. Again, you have to sit around a table, agree to some basic premises, and unfortunately, like there remains this. The allies versus the ESL kind of mindset. So as a result of that, it actually makes sense from a competition standpoint to have your events in untenable, like, global parts.
Oh, it makes it more likely you may have to turn down the other event. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and then if you're the one that's got these, because this is another part of the fucking Astralis equation people have left out, and this is true for everyone. Ask yourself this: why didn't they just give the players some time off? Why not, right?
Oh, no, don't worry, Richard. Everyone on Reddit, because, Reddit is just literally, the phrase echo chamber, right? That exists even more so for Reddit, because they're not even literally, like, saying something new. They're just repeating what the last guy said. So what everyone on Reddit will tell you, right, is, Richard, in Denmark, though, to get time off medically, you have to have a doctor's note. We're not talking about that daft cunt. We're not talking about going to the police saying, they won't let me have time off. We're talking about the people that Astralis pretend they are, which is an org that cares about their players and is innovative and, in fact, proactive in trying to fix problems before they happen. That's not someone who then has to have like a fucking here be a writ from the fucking emperor of the Holy Empire. Like, what are you talking about, guys?
But what it says, you see, in their contracts, what they've got is they've got this. They're entitled to the holidays, right? But there's a clause that says it has to be. It will be given by the org, and it must be in accordance with the esports calendar. Right? So this is the part of the puzzle no one's really picked up on yet. And this is why I've always been saying, take all of this nonsense with a fucking pinch of salt. That is that the organization has entered into all these agreements with all these leagues where they will forfeit revenue if they do not meet their obligation to play in these tournaments and play in these leagues, right? Well, you can't do that now. They're a publicly traded company. That revenue is shareholder revenue now, buddy. So you have got to go to these events. And this is why, behind the scenes, and I think it's come out, I think somebody reported this, everyone was telling me, not they're serious. They want to sign 5 players. They want to have a backup squad. so they can meet. They're not interested in winning, you understand. They just want to meet the obligations they've got in place. That's what's going on. That's what's been going on since day one. And I don't understand why people are kind of like, I mean, listen, I don't even think necessarily that's like a huge thing to be like mega critical of the organization about. It's not the most evil thing anyone's ever done in esports. It's arguably not evil at all. But it's the framing of it. It's like you say, they come and they say, we are this benevolent company that loves all of our employees. Can't get a fucking holiday for love nor money when they work in some of the most grueling circumstances I've ever heard about in esports. As I said, that run at the end of 2019 is an abomination. It's an abomination, and all of it contractually obliged. I've talked about this a lot.
And remember, by the way, think about this as well. Here's another two dots I'll connect for everyone. Why? Because, by the way, the period Rich is talking about was the end of last year. It was obviously when they came back and they won the major, and then they did that massive run where they were top 4 every tournament, right? When they did that time span, doesn't make sense that they'd ever do that, Richard, because remember, earlier the same year, they were skipping events because they need to have time off. Oh, no, they were only skipping events while they were trying to lock down exclusivity using Blast, where, by the way, here's one of these pieces of content I really regret not publishing now because I did all the legwork for it and I just didn't publish it. I did a piece, and the problem is I basically just realized normal people would be too bored by it, so I just fucking trashed it and said whatever. What I did was I just looked on a map at where every event was after one of those Blast stops early in the year, where Astralis was only attending Blasts and they were skipping the other events. And it is as though, are you ready? I'm going to say this in the most naive way possible. It was as though someone had the schedule for DreamHack and Star Series and ESL and purposely said, how could I make my stop be as far away around the world from where that stop is when mine's a week before or a week after, and I get my teams to agree beforehand, can only skip 2 events, remember, which events they go to. Essentially, when they were trying to do the soft exclusivity, they magically had it, Richard, so that even though, you know, normally you have a couple of events in Europe and then you have the one in China. No, every time it was in China for this event, the next one would be in Brazil. And then if it was in North America for this other tournament, bad luck, the other event's in fucking Russia or something. Like, it was like so cynically put together that it was obvious. And this is what gives the game away. Once they were exposed, once Astralis wasn't number 1, and once they couldn't get the soft exclusivity, they just said, fuck it, and sent them out to every fucking event in the circuit like they were Mouse Sports 2018. This is actually ridiculous. People never fucking put the dots together. It's mental. You can literally have it all out there, and the penny never drops.
No, like, I don't know. Like you say, well, look, I know what the reaction when it all comes tumbling out is going to be. But this is not an organization that has put its players' welfare first, no matter what they say. And they are constantly framing the messaging because they're a publicly traded company. It has to look positive every time the message goes out. You can't have shareholders losing confidence already. You only floated in the end of December last year,
and they're not at a higher amount now for the stock.
No, I mean they did raise, according to the numbers from the Nasdaq. They sold 16 million shares, over 16 million shares, almost closer to 17 actually, and raised $22 million off the process. So you can obviously do the maths there. It's a little over $1 a share. So everything now is linked to that. You can't come out and say, yeah, by the way, guys, we're signing some dog shit players as a stopover because we're essentially locked into a battle of wills with the players who really want some fucking time off. So for the next few events that we're contractually obliged to attend, we're probably going to lose all those games. The framing of that is fucking terrible.
I even made a point to, like, the other day, Richard, that no one else has thought about. This is also where I'm so sick and tired of the people in this industry, right? The people in this industry, Richard, who if you or I make a point, they have to jump onto our tweet and explain why we're not right or be the fucking reply guy. Like, well, actually, what I mean is, they love to do that, right? You know what? They never call anyone out. They never call out anyone legit. Like, here's an obvious thing that everyone who works for HLTV.org should be saying. By the way, the people who run those fucking rankings, why are they not pointing out that it's ridiculous Astralis is even in these tournaments? They don't have the real team. The team that they're fielding now should not be getting top seeds in massive fucking online tournaments. What are you doing? Like, that goes without saying.
And understand as well, though, all the players wanted some time off.
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, all the players wanted some time off. Yeah, like, if you think the players, right, like, they've got nothing against an Tag, they've got nothing against the Snappi, they've got nothing against the Yugi. But these guys, obviously, they're not thrilled at the prospect of having to play with, like, total fucking arsehole strangers at a tournament, lose, then get wrecked on social media for losing. You know, in an ideal world, it would have been those guys all took a break together and they came back together, refreshed. Not viable with the business model Astralis has built. It's there in their portfolio. This is publicly available information.
Also, think about this, right? That means that to Astralis the org, nothing you ever do will buy you their loyalty. You could win them literally the most majors in history. You could set an era. You could even topple the next fucking great team's era. You can do all of that for them. You can prop up their dog shit fucking side league that they're trying to leverage every aspect of your play to run to make themselves more money, not to make you a better team. You can do all that for them, and when you then turn around and say, "Can I have a break?" they go, "Can you fuck? You see your contract? Get back to work."
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. So people don't understand. It's not a happy camp over there right now. You know, this isn't like a unified front. That's not what's going on over there, and people have to understand why that's going on. And just go look at your history. We are talking about the greatest Counter-Strike core of all time, the greatest Counter-Strike team of all time. We're talking about players, by the way, that have battled through like provable health problems.
Did you see that article the other day? It was in a Dutch sports article. It was basically an interview with Device, where he says in this article, this is the world he's had to live in, by the way. He says in the article that after every tournament, he throws up because of his illness, but that's all right. He's learned to deal with it. And this guy can't get a fucking break from his org. This is a joke.
Yeah. But people don't remember in 2017 when he was so ill, they had to use...
Dennis and Rubino.
Dennis and Pimp, wasn't it?
No, Rubino.
Oh, Rubino, yeah, that's right. I think Pimp was... When they going to get...
He might have played an online game for
was
them.
Team Liquid, I think, yeah. But anyway, you know, they had to use stand-ins in 2017, and you'll notice, of course, the org never talked about having full-time replacements then. Weird, right? But, like, Devices had an ongoing digestive issue, and it's a serious one. It's like it's bad. It's like
it's also stress related. So you can imagine what playing in a massive finals like when everyone expects you to win.
Especially if you know Device's history, he's always been someone who is a little bit, you know, like, you know, he does get stressed in big situations and has had to work through that with sports psychologists and everything else, right? So then you add to that, right? I mean, I think people seem to forget, you know, Dupree lost a father, Zonix, I think lost a father too.
Last year, I think.
Yeah, last year. Lucas has had ongoing health problems related to the fact he had a collapsed lung not once but twice. Like, this team, they're physically and emotionally beaten up. And here's 5 tournaments in 43 days on 3 fucking continents. Have fun. Like, nah, man, come on. Like, and then you're going to put out statements saying, we love our players. We'll do everything to give them a break. The only reason they are scrambling now to get these players in as quick as they can and go towards this 5 thing is because of the doctor's notes. Because now, if you try and make your players play to meet your obligations, you are in violation of Danish law. And if I was a Device, for example, I'd go get one as well. You've got a stress-related illness. It's a slam dunk. Like, take some fucking time off. It's insane.
There's also, by the way, how you know that they don't care about the players. Because even like this is how you know Astralis is a concept to make someone a lot of money where they will exit the business in a few years. Here's how you know. Because the number one asset the Astralis organization has is those Counter-Strike players, specifically those Counter-Strike players, because they not only are the greatest core in history, but they are so fucking young for having already had their era. It's incredible. They're the only team in history who actually have a real shot at a second era, because most of them are like 22 years old right now. So as a result, even in your own self-interest to have a org 10 years from now and maybe have this team be great for another couple of years, you should want to rest them, knowing that if I can then get them all back in the same cycle, that they all come back, let's say in 4 months, 3 months, and they then have another chance at a mid. That's how you keep that success going. They don't even want to do that. And the reason why, if you've been listening to this episode so far, is because everything they're doing, all of their machinations lead towards plumping the goose up today to sell it tomorrow. It's not to have a team
totally.
that's awesome in 3 years. It's not so that Device is still an active pro player with no health issues in 5 years. If Device has to play today with a fucked up digestive system and feel terrible and lose shit games online and only get past because you've got a head-to-head tiebreak over Saw, then he has to do that so that some Danish guy, maybe not even Nicola Nyholm, gets to have millions of dollars in a few years now. That's where we're at in esports.
And this from a one-time famously player-owned organization. This is why it's so egregious.
I know,
So
that became the most Orwellian
I'll
term
end
of all
this bit
time.
here because, like, basically, you've all got the gist of the article that's going to drop now, right? And as you'll see, thank God the CSPPA is nuanced in Danish law because of the people that are associated with it. That's another component to all of this.
Oh, there's
But
so
I'll
much
just-
shit that's going to come out. It's going to be great.
Right. So I'll just say that when those players do call me a liar and say I've got it wrong and everything's all right, like, I'm on your side, homie. I think, like, I don't give a fuck. I've said it to any player. I understand how the game is played. I know who the fucking puppet masters in this industry are, and you got to get your paper and you got to fucking do what's right for you. So when you do call me a liar and a cunt and a scumbag and set all the fans on me, I ain't even mad about it. I ain't mad when you do it because you got to do it. You know, you're the meat in the fucking sandwich. I get it, right? Ain't angry.
I'll just say I don't subscribe to it. You can do it to Richard if you want, but I'll even hold that against
but
you.
don't do it to him.
Oh no!
Yeah.
And by the way, any of these devices is literally dead to me from now on. By the way, I'll never ever speak to that individual again. He will never exist in my world. He's only a CS player in a server, and that is how I will treat him from now on. So I don't care. Like, when someone's literally cost me tens of thousands of dollars for me and my family, I will never ever ever treat that person with respect again. You are an enemy of mine. You have made yourself an enemy of mine, and at any opportunity where by legal means you present yourself, I will absolutely take you down. That goes for any player in the scene. I don't care. You can win 100 majors. You will still only be a man. I will be a man, and we will settle it like men.
Yeah, fair. So while we're talking about that, the other part of that sort of mad equation is the career of journeyman Snappi continues. So he had his day. He had his day playing for Astralis, like literally his day. And then
Great advertisement as well. By the way, can I just say that if you're listening, Snappi, how did that help your career, you idiot? It made it less likely you'll ever be on teams now. Like, you probably thought, it's my shot though, I'm in Astralis, I can prove that. No, all you did is you were just the replacement guy when they're having a fucking lockout that everyone hates and no one remembers in history. Like, that didn't help you, mate. That made it worse. Now it's going to be harder to convince people you're a competent player.
Yeah, it's it was a bit of a weird one.
Short-sighted.
Well, I mean, so he joined Tiger, never played a game for them. I don't think he played a single game. Got loaned out immediately, plays a series for Astralis, and is now linked with Contact, which they themselves have got this like sort of insane expanding roster. Now, I probably imagine this is part of the long-term plan to replace Emmy on the team. Although I don't think they've particularly said who it's likely he's going to replace. I don't think that's been announced. So currently their squad's going to be Letney, Emmy, Esperanto, Otto, Ships, and Snappi. He's obviously going to slot in as an in-game leader. So I imagine the likely replacement will be Emmy there. But I mean, I don't know what you think of this move. For me, the Contact team, they are one that back when, you know, they moved out of Imperial and I know they've lost a few players and bits and parts there. I still think having like Otto, Ships, Esperanto, even Letney, I think that's still a legit core. I just don't see what's like Snappi for me's very much had his time. I don't think you're getting a particularly good in-game leader or necessarily a particularly good player. Step up from Emmy. If that is indeed who he replaces, sure. But I don't know. I still got a little bit of doubts if this is the right move for the team.
My main issue with Contact is those three big names, Esperanto, Ships, Otto, they all seem like Esperanto and Ships seem like in a year or two, they'll be some of the absolute best players in the entire world. Otto, based on his age and who he is, he just seems like an all right player. Like those three pieces, though, should be good enough to make you a top 10 team immediately. Like those are the firepower to be a top 10 team. The problem is they don't have the rest of it. Like the other two players, Emmy and Letney, they're just not good players. Like they're not at this level. And then secondly, those three like stars haven't even been playing like stars anyway. So they desperately needed some sort of IGL change to bring the pieces together. Like this is the example of a team that you'd want like a Carrigan to join and instantly turn them around. So the problem is IGL is the most obvious role to upgrade in this team. And if you do it, you almost immediately get a better team. But think about the three big IGLs that are available. You've got Snappi, you've got Lecro, you've got Alex. Of those three, unfortunately, I would put Snappi as number 3 out of those options. I'd rather have Alex first and foremost. I feel like that could be a fucking banging team. If not that, Lecro. Lecro's a decent fragger himself. He's IGL'd a mix of loose and some tactics. The problem I have with this move is not only is Snappi, in my opinion, the least appealing of those 3 IGLs, but he also is a Danish IGL. Like he's come from a scene where you do all fucking tactics and shit. I want someone like Lecro, like more of a loose style IGL for a team like this. So I feel like it's not a terrible move. It's better than keeping Emmy and Letney, but it's not the move that does what it could. Like if I'm Contact, I don't even know why a team like that's in Flashpoint if you're not willing to make a big move when someone like Alex is available. Like that's the move that makes you a top, like the 6th best team in the world if you get your shit together, maybe.
Yeah, I think they've got, like, as I said, they've got like some really good, talented players on that roster, but we all know that's never enough. I mean, even at the highest level, it's never enough. If you look at kind of like the false dawn Na'Vi just fed us, but again, I'm still hanging in there. I still think that's going to work. Yeah, you have to have like a good, solid foundation, and yeah, I wouldn't have thought Snappi was the guy. I would have maybe stepped up a little bit and tried to offer a bigger contract to some of the names that you mentioned. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. I mean, I suppose Snappy's fucking laughing all the way to the bank. I mean, he got out of the Tiger hell. I don't even know what that was. I still don't know what that move was about. I suppose following on from that, Smooya's back into fucking free agency as well, because of course. That Tiger move was just so like bizarre. Like I don't understand. It's like, did the guy who owns that team just get like a bunch of money?
As far as I know, they had some big money basically. And I mean, listen, it's not the best signings, but they were trying to like flex by getting some foreign players or some bullshit, you know?
Yeah. Well, so Smooya's back in free agency. So we'll now segue into our Rat King section of by the numbers, a classic. Like he came out first. He tweeted. I love this as well. Like. Why is he like this, Duncan? So he tweeted out saying like, oh, I'm in a bit of a weird contract situation, like prior to going into free agency. Just imagine if you hadn't isolated yourself from people that would like willingly help you through this. Like in a past life when all that Epsilon stuff was going on, and I thought legitimately he was in like trouble. I like went and fucking, had a look at all the particulars, Red Eye helped him out and stuff. His response to that was to fallaciously say, which something he maintains was real, that I called him a cheater and made a video about him, which the video doesn't exist. No tweets exist of me doing this, but he is absolutely adamant that it happened in his mind. So I can't deal with that. I've like extended the hand like 2 or 3 times because this talent that's going to waste before our eyes. It's prodigious. It could have been something so much more than what it is, but back into free agency. And here's the thing. Every time he's in free agency, usually, right, when a player goes into free agency, you already kind of know where they're going to end up. You already hear the rumors about, who wants them.
I can tell you, this is a guy who every time he's in free agency, it's just like...
Yeah, I know, right?
Was there anyone want him? No one gives a fuck about this guy. I have said it on the show before. People watching this show now, even though we have famously mocked him, you probably think he is a more valuable player than almost any org does. Like, I actually have tried to fucking field this guy. They just don't give a fuck. There's nothing appealing there for them.
Yeah, well, it's just like the baggage. Like, the thing is as well, it's not even like baggage necessarily based on what you did. It's like future baggage.
Yes.
Like you understand that by bringing him into a team, you are likely to have clashes on the team that you are going to have to resolve. You are likely going to have to deal with a Twitter drama, and you are likely going to lose him, possibly even because, again, as I've always said, the way he left big will stain you for life.
The dumbest move of all time.
Yeah, because like,
Basically, that made him like the next Kiyashima, where you just have like a mark that no one will ever fully explain it, but they will always be carried in every team you go to.
Yeah, you just simply cannot ever get rid of that. You walked out on a team before one of the biggest tournaments of all time, fucking over the team and fucking over yourself. You literally there have gone for the mutually assured destruction route, which the whole point of mutually assured destruction isn't that you fucking do it and destroy everyone and kill all life on the planet. The whole point is that's such a terrifying prospect. No one presses the button. Smooya, press the button for fuck's sake. What? Like, there's no getting around that. So I don't even know where the fuck he could end up now. I mean, it was already bad that he was like looking at Tiger, right? But like now, like he didn't even go and play for Tiger. So I don't. Can you honestly think of a team where he might end up? I mean, maybe he could follow Snappi to contact. Maybe but him and Esperanto, fucking hell.
The problem with that is I don't think they would want him, unfortunately. Especially because remember, the coach of Contact is Neil M, and he's from the UK scene, so he knows what fucking Smooya is like. Me, you're not going to trick him.
Yeah, I can't remember. Do they get on or not?
I think they're like mates on some level, but I think he also understands the problems that come with Smooya. So I don't think you'd want him in that team. You know, that's the big problem. Basically, is the only teams that Smooya realistically has a chance at is like tier 2 or tier 3 European teams or an NA team that's down on its luck. And the big problem right now is you can't go to America at the moment, so you can't get that NA team because you can't get a visa. So I think he's just going to be sat around for a while or playing in some shit team. Personally, I think he might be fucked.
The thing is, I think if you know Neil M from back in the sources, Neil M was Smooya before Smooya was Smooya. Like Neil M was like that. So he maybe he's a good mentor, or maybe it is like just fucking he knows to avoid it all like the plague, because it is fucking, I don't know, man. But I still can't believe we're talking about a player as good as him not being able to find a team. It's
pathetic.
It's absolute madness. So this might bring us back to Astralis. Copenhagen Flames announced that they are willing to take offers for their CSGO roster. This was publicly put out there. They are currently saying, like, listen, we are in the business of selling. We're very much selling. I'll be right now, not exactly a seller's market, not gonna lie. But it's interesting. So
I remember that Astralis dickhead has been in interviews saying, like, this is how bad these guys are, Richard. Like, they have to lie in everything they say. Everything they say has to. I even pointed this out the other day. Even the word Astralis has the word liars encoded within it, literally. So what's insane about these guys is, like, as opposed to just lie on a small level, like, well, yeah, we had to get these players to replace players who, needed a sick break. They go the other way. No, we're planning on having 10 players in the team. So by that logic, they need 3 more players, Richard. So I think I've got a move that's going to work here, guys. Just bring that together.
No, but I actually would say watch this space, because I could definitely see them, picking up like Refresh or Nodios.
Yep.
Like it's legit that they want to go down this 5-player route, and it's
they're gonna have to soon if the players can force their way out eventually. They're gonna have those replacements, of course.
Exactly. So I almost feel this is like fly fishing.
Saying, hey, if you're looking for players, we're in the market.
I honestly think the Copenhagen, so is another part. Like, this is more just research stuff. It's not even going to be in the article, so I'll just say it. Like, when I was looking into it, this is another way Astralis. Like, the idea that they're out there, like, yes, Snappi will be an excellent stand-in, but only for one series. And then, yes, Esatag is certainly a player. Jack of all trades, master of none, but perfect, flexible. They're not doing any of this. They're literally out there going, we got to get 5 fucking players! 5 players, please! Like, please, we got to get 5 players. So they have contacted so many orgs behind the scenes.
I even heard that when they were coming to get Snappi, they asked for another player as well. I can't remember if it was ever publicly said. They were asking for other people.
Scrambling, like, to try and get a fucking squad together.
I don't know if you. In fact, actually, there's a piece of information you might not have seen. Did you see? This is something I tweeted just before Blast Showdown began.
Yeah.
No one noticed this. When Kirby came out and publicly said that he was going to have to step back because of health issues, and I can't remember if it was burnout or something along those lines, right? Nicola Nyholm a few days later on Twitter,
Yeah,
publicly blamed all of those problems that Kirby's had as a player, like him being a bad player, basically, since he left Astralis, on the North Org, and implied like that he wanted to keep him in Astralis and like that he would have been a great player in Astralis, like it was the environment he had around him. This guy, there's no law he won't go to. There's no law this guy will not go to.
Yeah, like imagine that. Like imagine, you know, we've got it. We're actually going to bat for the Astralis players and saying like these guys, and they're putting out all these statements going, well, here at Astralis, the caring work farm, we let our players take 5-minute breaks and we give them a bottle of water every day. We're the best. Here's a fucking fluffy PR statement. We're doing everything right. Oh, that player that used to play for us, full of shit, by the way. Like, complete liar. Was just a basket case, actually. Like, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. But of course, the fans lap it up. They all love it. That's the people you're associated with. But anyway, back to Copenhagen Flames. This is absolutely fly fishing, in my opinion. Maybe they weren't contacted and they heard other people were, because everyone in the Danish scene talks to everyone. And I think they're going like, oh, you need 5 players? We'd love to sell some of these. Now, what's weird there is, this is like a relatively new project, and they've like done okay like so far and played in some relatively sizable tournaments. I don't know if this is like they're getting cold feet for Counter-Strike or Esports already, because it does kind of, or whether this is just like, actually, if we sell 1 or 2 players to Astralis, we'll be set and we can continue. I don't know if you have any insight into that.
I mean, they've already sold the best 2 players they had. So the idea now they're trying to sell the other players does make it seem like a mixture of they're either super desperate for cash or, like you're saying, if you know Astralis is not just signing players, but they're just getting any human who can sit in a chair and is from Denmark, I'd be trying to sell if I'm Copenhagen Flames. Don't let Astralis waste their time trying to sign Kirby for the 5th time. Oh, did I say that out loud? And failing to do it, and then just blaming all of his fucking problems on the org that he's in. You fucking rat cunts. You know the saddest thing about all this as well, by the way, is the area that it's absolutely not worth it to do any of this is the outcome. If anyone's wondering, right, how glamorous the outcome is, think about this for a second and understand exactly what I'm about to say. Nothing that me and Richard do now will ever stop Astralis and the scumbags behind Astralis getting away with what they're doing. They are going to get away with it. In fact, they have to get away with it for us to be able to report on it. All we can do is one thing. And you know what? It seems like such a tiny thing, and sometimes it is, but it can sometimes be the most important thing. We can just make sure they only physically get away with it. Their reputation won't get away with it. So the point is, they would have gotten away with all this scumbaggery, but also being able to present themselves as the best org ever with this perfect, spotless record. No one ever speaks out against them. I guarantee you will not leave with that. When this game ends, you might leave this game with tens of millions of dollars and all the majors. You definitely won't leave with all that prestige, though. I promise you that. So just like NIP, that org will one day be only known for all the scumbaggery. And that will be the one victory that is possible. It's not much, but it's something.
Yeah, I kind of subscribe to that. It always gives me a smile as well when, like, for example, you see, you go on a subreddit and, there's been a lot of talk about Riot games recently. And now it's incredible to see the drones of like 2 or 3 years ago that would have been like...
Oh, the spell's been lifted, hasn't it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, totally. And it's like, I always loved it when I got told that there was people like in Riot that like literally just Richard Lewis is publishing a story again. Oh god, like they used to hate it. I must have cost them like they're a big company. I must have cost them a lot of fucking money. And yeah, we traded blows. And via the way of Reddit, they definitely got some licks in on me. But now when I go to a thread on that subreddit, which the mods now, they've just got to let them up because, like you said, the spell's been lifted. Those are the threads that 3 years ago would disappear. Now it's just like, oh yeah, love that company that abuses women. God, Mark Merrill's a fucking hypocrite and a cult leader. Yeah, what about that Riot Light guy? You remember how it was revealed? And it's like, yes, I fucking did that. It doesn't change anything. They still got to go home and sleep on their piles of money, but everyone knows you're a fucking scumbag. And that's because, and like you said, that sometimes that victory's enough. I don't want a pile of money. I'm fine. I'll probably be like, you'll be walking down a fucking street in Middlesbrough one day and you're just going to see a wild, feral, unkempt man like talking to himself. And you're going to go, Rich. and I'm gonna be like, no, get away, it's not me, just drinking out of a fucking, like, you know, I'm fine, I'm built for that. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's gonna be good. I'm waiting on the reaction though. I'm already kind of 2 steps ahead with that. But yeah, so anyway, Copenhagen Flames are looking for bids on CSGO. We'll see what that brings about long term. Another story, just keeping one eye on the time here, because we'll move to viewer patron questions, I should say, in a bit. There was a story that came out just the other day. Apparently, and DK tweeted it out, but it's not his reporting. Apparently, it looks like Valve have responded and sort of said that they're going to react to the Jamppi lawsuit. So for those that don't know, Jamppi is a Finnish player who has been banned from competing at any of the majors and Valve tournaments on the premise that an account he bought for a friend, which I would imagine he can prove that part of it, was cheated on. And Valve said that this
when he was like 13 as well.
Yeah, when he was 13 or 14.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. So they are saying that as a result of that, it's perfectly fair and reasonable that he is permanently banned from majors. And as a result of this, it stopped him moving to OG, which would have been a huge move for him with a huge salary. And so they're looking at compensation and damages to be paid by Valve because of this ban. Because as you know, if you can't play at a major, even though it shouldn't make any difference really in the grand scheme of things, we're talking 2 tournaments a year. For what that you can make more money playing in every other tournament but the majors than you can if you play in some tournaments and the majors. Orgs don't want to not play at the major because of the prestige and the eyeballs that it gets on your brand, because it breaks viewership records. So, yeah, basically they have said they're going to have a statement out by June 15th, which is going to talk about the Valve response. But we don't know much about it. I know you've got a lot of interest in this because you've been one of Jamppi's biggest sort of advocates, and as we've talked about on the podcast before, I agree. I think the ban is really egregious and harsh.
Because the thing is, he's almost like, what I couldn't believe when I found Jamppi is I've actually found what people would have said was the straw man, like an actual kid who appears to have done one thing that doesn't appear like a spree of cheating and done like the most minimal possible like violation to get you the VAC ban, and then given by default the harshest possible VAC punishment for the VAC ban. Like normally, if I made that case in the past, you could be 12 years old, then people would go, come on, you're just making a straw man. Like, no, it happened. It's real. The guy did it. He's even here. And even better than that, unlike every other wanker like Kaylee that still maintains they didn't cheat, he's even doing all the things you would do if you hadn't cheated, like publicly, repeatedly make statements, start a lawsuit. Like this all looks fucking dynamite. Like if there's ever a chance to break Valve's fucked up hegemony over VACBAN, this is it. This is the best possible case.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's got to be said, I've seen a lot of people as well going, well, you just can't beat Valve's lawyers because they got all the money.
I love listening to legal experts on Reddit. I've noticed that. They all notice how they can, you know that, I mean, the irony is they literally are doing what the quote says. You know that famous one that says, like, you know, wise men debate cases, fools decide them. In this case, they're literally deciding cases, Richard, that haven't even gone to court yet.
Yeah, but you know, people need to go and look up. Valve have lost some lawsuits. I mean, they lost a lot of consumer-related lawsuits.
Sure, a lot of those like loot boxes ones have got fucked over those.
Yeah, and Australia, where it was their policy not to give refunds, and they were like, this is anti-consumer. This is against Australian consumer law. You sell goods and services. I think the basis for the Valve argument was Steam is essentially a subscription. And therefore you don't really own anything on your Steam account. I think that was rejected by the Australian courts, and they lost a lawsuit and had to pay damages to people. So they are mortal in that sense. They can be beaten in a court of law, and like you say, this is potentially a landmark case. Not just necessarily for VAC bans, but you know, for esports bans in general, and kind of, as I call it, the tyranny of these developers, right? Like the developer rules the roost. Now, you can argue, sure, intellectual property laws, etc., etc. I don't like this idea, by the way, of like you not really owning a Steam account.
That's disgraceful when you consider, like, listen, they don't make you feel like you don't own that knife that you have in CSGO.
Yeah.
If they went out of their way 24/7 to be like flashing a light, this is not your knife, this is just one you are borrowing. Like, no one thinks that. Everyone understands the colloquial use of that being your account, that you own the things on, that you can sell, you can trade, that is yours. I already think, by the way, and this is also something that would follow in the wake of a move like this happening if he won the case, is I've always thought it was outrageous that you could, in theory, have like a $10,000 skin inventory, and then some wanker at a LAN could just go on your PC and cheat in a server, and then you just get $10,000 taken away from you, and Valve gets to go at the end. Well, it never actually had real world value. It was just a vague fuck you. Because even the way you're applying your IP is evil. Can't anyone hear the way they're talking? Like, they're going, what do you mean? It's just you're just sort of leasing Steam from us.
Yeah.
If you don't hold these companies' feet to the fire, they will abuse every loophole. Every loophole.
Oh yeah. So there's no indication how serious it's going to be. And I looked at the lawsuit document. I think it is in public now. I got it a little bit beforehand. I looked at it. I got to be honest, the case does seem pretty thin, but maybe there's something that specifically pertains to Finnish law that I wouldn't understand, some nuance. Okay. For example, like whether or not it was ever viable that he could buy the account or something. I don't know. But it just on the surface level arguments appear to be very thin indeed. And, not as strong as I would have hoped for. So I don't know how robust the case is. But, I mean, finally getting a response. I mean, that's the madness. Remember the story last time we talked about it was Valve wouldn't even fucking respond. They're just going to ignore it. So we'll watch that with great interest. And then final story we'll cover before the patron questions. We'll do a fun one. Remember, Duncan, there was a great exodus, wasn't there? There was a great exodus of CSGO players, NA ones, in particular, going over to Valorant because CSGO was completely untenable. It's completely untenable for them, and there was a variety of reasons for it, and here's a manifesto, and it just simply won't work. So DK's just published a story today about Swole Patrol announcing their glorious return. We're coming back, guys. We're coming back. And, of course, it was like, well, the org must have signed different players. There's no way the players that went over to Valorant are coming back so soon because it would look really, really silly. Well, yeah, that's what's happened. So Freak's back, Freakazoid's back, Zelzis is back. They're going to be on this roster apparently, and as I said, it isn't confirmed yet, but it's a DK report, so it's as good as. What an absurd fucking like. I could have told you guys this. There are not, unless your brand is absolutely huge, and on top of that, there is some sort of perception that you can be fucking good in Valorant as well, right? Like you've already earned respect from playing in all the pickup games that have been going on, that have been organized on Discords and stuff. You're not just walking in to like a fucking big contract over there. It will not necessarily have all of the solutions to your problems. So, I mean, like Hiko, for example. Hiko, I watch his stream when he's playing Valorant. Very competent player, and obviously one of the biggest brands. Like it makes total sense to sign Hiko, even if you're a little bit worried that he's too old to do it. Understand as well, you will take a gamble on that now because there's no professional scene, there's no league, there's no, we don't even know what kind of tournaments are gonna be out there. So now is the time to gamble and get a lot of eyeballs on your brand and say, hey, we got a Valorant team, and look at this legendary CS pro, right? No disrespect to you, Zelzis. Come on, bro. Like, you're not in the same league, are you? You're not cutting it. Freak, I'm a little bit surprised about, but I know he's got a pretty, solid relationship with his brother, even though they've had the differences in the past, and Coop was going to be on the team. I think he's woefully, I think he's tanking his own career and probably what is going to be the peak of his form by committing to the Swole Patrol project. I think Coop is actually good enough to play on a top team. They've got Marquis in there as well. So I don't know, man. I don't even know if there's any point to this story. I just think it's funny that like 2 weeks ago we're talking about how CSGO for NA players, especially tier 2 and tier 3, is like untenable. And you've been over in Valorant for 5 minutes, and there's no scene here. So fucking hell, we're straight back with our tails between our legs.
Oh, I'm with you. The stupidest thing about this is these are the perfect examples of players who almost made it in CSGO. So what reason would anyone have to sign you in Valorant? Unless you're either the best Valorant player or a big name, there is no reason to sign you. Literally none. There's no scene right now. Yes, teams are picking up players because they're testing the waters, or they want you to be a streamer. If you can stream right now, like you have a big brand or you're really good, we can make use of you today. Now, here's the thing. Along with speculating on Valorant and all the rest of it, I also know things from behind the scenes. Like I know, for example, that Riot lied. Like they did not, as they said, stay out of it and let people run tournaments. They, as usual, literally sat like commissars deciding who gets tournaments and who doesn't, and basically kiboshed a whole bunch of tournaments that could have happened. They didn't want it to happen because it had to be in the beta. It had to be exactly this way and only this amount of days and only this number of teams. Sounded familiar at all? It's how they treated. It's how they cocked fucking IEM for the last 5 years of dealing with them or whatever. Like,
MLG too.
They have lied. Basically, here's the real message to read into the subtext of what Riot says when they say, well, in the beginning of Valorant, we're just going to be a bit hands-off and let the scene figure itself out. That's not a positive thing of them saying, you know what, we're going to let MLG and ESL and DreamHack figure out this scene and see if they can be partners with us. I'll tell you the subtext. The subtext goes like this. Even we don't know if Valorant's going to be a big game, so fuck wasting our money and our budget from Tencent on running the game. What we'll do is let you daft cunts that we cock every fucking 10 years come back for another cocking, and after you finish being cocked, either we'll let you carry the bag when the scene fails, or if it starts to get good, we'll just take it all back from you, and you can fuck off till we get another game, dickhead. And these people in the esports scene are so stupid. They're going, you know, they're going to let me do a tournament. It's like, you're so dumb, you would deserve to get ripped off at this point in time. Like, you deserve that fucking shell game that you're getting run on you.
The shell
This is
game.
no sympathy fucking Thorin today. You have to understand.
No, I know it.
I'm full fucking no more tears.
Oh, mate. Right. Let's do the questions then. Let's get into those. So what do we got today? Remember, by the way, if you sign up on the Patreon, and you give $50 on. I still haven't reworked these goals. I say every fucking week I'm gonna do it. I'm never gonna do it. I'm just full of shit, aren't I? But if you pay $50 or more, you get to ask a question at the end of the show. It can be about anything. Doesn't have to just be esports related. So if you've got $50 to spare in these terrible economic times, you can go and do that. It's probably not really worth it, but thanks to everyone that does do it. So Jyse, should esports have admins that would be close to the referee, the legendary referee, I'll add, Pierluigi Collina, in their stance for no bullshit? Would this kind of more strict adminning stop all the bullshit regarding all these crashing PCs intentionally, pretending to have equipment breakdowns so you can gain extra timeouts and break up momentum?
What was the premise again?
So basically, he's just saying, like, should we have, like, you know,
More
complete
hardcore
aggro, Collina style, no bullshit admins at tournaments?
Oh, I mean, I think we've discussed this before. I do think that. Like, listen, you and me know this. As bad as it is now, it used to be way worse in the past. Like, literally in the past, the CS royalty, the Navis of the world, the fucking Forest and Fnatic, or SKs or NIPs. These teams used to literally borderline cheat by abusing admins, as in turn up late, get extra time off before a game starts, like waste time during swap overs on halves. Because what they would basically do is just imply to that admin, like, we'll just fucking walk out on you right now and you'll have no game if you don't do what we say. So I've always personally thought admins should be like fucking NBA and NFL, where they are absolutely vilified by all fans who are fans of one team or the other, but because they do the harsh judgments. Like, if you do the flagrant foul, you're out the game. If you do some fucked up thing, right, that's a penalty. You get it right now. Doesn't matter that everyone's booing you, boo, boo. Like, they're just going to do that no matter what, aren't they? Like, 90% of sports fans are just fucking dishonest cunts anyway. So I personally wish that admins were way harsher. Like, I'm sick of seeing bullshit go on in the server that, like, you just think, why doesn't the person man just step in and say, you know what, it's a violation. What are you doing? Like that famous example where Fallen was just talking during the freeze time. What, I don't know what that admin behind him was doing. Like, what, you're just stood watching it, you daft cunt. What, you think it's the best seat in the house? You're just watching the guy cheat, and you're just stood going, I see nothing. Doesn't look like anything to me. Corralho. It's like,
yeah.
Can we check where that guy's fucking passport's from?
Yeah, no, it's definitely ridiculous. I've said this, like, the problem back in the day was the admins were too close to the players.
They were all super fans back then, weren't they?
Yeah, or too reverential. You know, when you see, like, for example, I mean, like, it was just on that, you know, Michael Jordan documentary where, you know, motherfuckers would be like backstage, you know, and they were meant to be like people who were working for the organizer, and to be like,
Yeah.
you know, autographs. There was shit like that, you know, everywhere in esports, and I've told the story many times about the nip guy, the nip journalist in the press room at Cologne when we were.
That's
when
mental,
Fnatic
isn't it, that
won.
story?
Yeah, and fucking one of the journalists for a big website in Counter-Strike. Like, so the mad thing was that Fnatic had to walk with the trophy from the stadium through the press room, past the players, past the fans, and up into the press room for the interview. And while they were doing it, boo, boo, everyone's like fucking just absolutely barracking them, like, boo, boo, fuck you, cheating, boo, boo. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, I was expecting like rotten fruit to be pelted down. It was like insane, right? And then I noticed one of the cunts who was doing it was like, he was a journal, he was a fucking press guy. Boo, boo, fucking cheating bastards. I was like, a bit weird. Anyway, we went up to the room to like do this press conference where everyone gets to ask a question, and the guy like leaned over, and it was the guy that had been booing, and he like said like fucking hate Fnatic, mate, bunch of cunts, aren't they? And like he lifted out his phone and it had an NIP logo on as the screensaver. And I'm like, this can't be the fucking business I'm in. But it is. So the problem, anyway, unrelated, but the problem you fucking got is that the admins back in the day were all super fans. So they all loved all of the players and they're super reverential. And they just being in their orbit was like a big deal for them. And now they're the experienced admins, so they've always got a little bit of that.
Oh, and also they would be so partisan in terms of countries. Yeah. Like if you were at a DreamHack in Sweden, fat chance getting a fucking admin decision going your way if the other team is fucking like Fnatic or something. Like, you just know. Or France was probably the most infamous.
No, France, I mean,
they were there in France. I've had people who were admins of tournaments. We won't say which one's the obvious one. Tell me to my face that someone couldn't hear a player, someone talking through their like fucking comms, and I was like, "But he's right there. He just said he did." Nah, he can't. He cannot hear anything. It's like, get me out of this shit. Like, gaslight me to my face. I was there.
No, but not just that though. There was one that never came out. There was a LAN. This is a long time ago. I still won't name the LAN because I can't be arsed dealing with deranged French fans who still hold on to this stuff. Vacom, right, as we call them. But there was a LAN anyway where they didn't do knife rounds. They'd come up with a coin toss system and completely automated. I mean, it was literally you press a button and the computer goes like heads, tails, you know, like basic thing you could fucking program. You know, anybody could probably do it. Anyway, when somebody went and looked at it, the French teams there got every favourable side on every map, like whatever. Like literally, it was every time. It was every time, right? And somebody broke down the data and like, so somebody was going, hang on a minute, they've started on T every time on this map, and they were going, it's just random. I'm like, oh, you know. So what are you gonna do?
What can I do?
What can I do? Look, you watch. I press the button. Sometimes it is headset. It was like that. It was just complete like fit. So I don't know. I'm not saying they did do that, but it was incredible. There was all sorts of mad shit. Like go ask the Source players, by the way, about there was a tournament in Denmark. I think it was a DS rack. It might have been 2. 3 was in the bowling alley, and I think 2 was in a school gym. It was the one in the school gym, but for those that were there, I don't know why I'm giving that detail. Obviously, no one's still around. Everyone grew up and had kids. I'm just the only fucking prat that's still here. But anyway, at that DS rack, everyone was told you had to use like CRT monitors or, you know, that were locked to like certain hertz. It was in the rules. And then Very Games, they were ahead of the curve. They had like 100, whatever was the shit hot one at the time, 120 hertz, I think it was. And they basically said to the admins, like, we have to use these monitors.
Yeah. We've still got the VOD going. I'm going to restart the stream.
Oh, okay. So what? Am I just down, or is the actual stream down?
No, the stream's down, yeah. I don't know
just the stream.
Okay, we're back. Never mind, I haven't even got to restart.
All right, good, yeah. Just Twitch having problems. So anyway, DS rack, anyway. Everyone had used these CRT monitors. And Very Games turned up and they had like 120 hertz monitors, right? That they got from some sort of sponsorship, maybe BenQ or whoever it was back then. And they, even though it was in the tournament rules that you had to use these monitors, Very Games were like, no, we're using 120 hertz, and they played an entire tournament with like monitors that had like double the fucking frame rate, double, you know, of anyone else in the tournament. So yeah, I mean, like you just, I don't think you're ever going to get that in esports. And the final point on this, but you know, after we take all these trips down memory lane, is just that the reality is players have a lot of power and influence hierarchically. So they might not be able to take down like TOs and sometimes the orgs that, you know, cuckold them. But like if a tournament admin ever sort of went against one of them, chances are if a tournament admin did an unfavorable decision or could be argued publicly, was overly harsh, he'd probably get dropped from a tournament or
no doubt.
You know, yeah, he would be, you know, he wouldn't be allowed to, you know, admin their games anymore. So a lot of admins just don't have the argument with the power players because it's not really worth it. Anyway, that answers your question. Sunmaid Raisins. Would it benefit FaZe to add Hunter and Nexa and drop Brokey and the lad they just signed? How would Kenny S cope, though? So, I'll go first on this one. I mean, I think Hunter and Nexa have proven themselves to be like a great duo. They've slotted into G2 in what was like probably like pretty difficult circumstances, and have continued to be very accomplished players with very high skill ceilings. I just don't know if it's kind of warranted yet for I mean, I think it'd be a great move. No disrespect to the guy they just signed and no disrespect to Brokey. But I think it would be a great move. But I would feel very sorry for Brokey to get dropped. I don't think he's played bad at all in this team. And yeah, it would kind of suck. But it would also defeat the purpose of having signed younger, unknown players to develop his talent anyway in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's a banging move. Like, I like the idea for the move. It's actually something, not the Hunter part, because obviously, like, the Hunter and Equal part just go without saying that people might want to put them in a team. But actually, I remember, I think it might have been Launders who suggested it. He was the one who actually suggested that Nexa is the obvious fix to the FaZe problems. He can frag, and he's from the same region as Nico, so Nico might respect him, and he's an IGL. Like, that would actually, in theory, fix half their fucking problems. So I think it's a pretty banging move if you made that team. Some really nice pieces there. I don't know if it would work, but that has the potential to be like a #1 team in the world, the top 3, top 5 team, like better than FaZe now. So I wouldn't necessarily hate it from the FaZe side. I did find it a bit bizarre that part he put in the end. Like, and what would Kenny S do? Fucking sit and hold his dick? What's he supposed to do? Like, he's not really saying it, does he? Like,
he'd lose his fucking mind.
Oh, of course, it'd suck for him, yeah. But actually, to be fair, at this point in time, I actually think this G2 roster, one of the things that will end up paying dividends is that it's broken Kenny S out the idea he has to only play with French people. Like, I'd love to see that guy himself be on a FaZe clan one day. Like, he's so good, he could fucking do it. Or some sick NA team if he wants to take a gander over the pond. So I think it's not a bad move. I don't know why G2 would do it except for the buyouts, but if they're willing to do it, it's a pretty cool move. I hate seeing that talent wasted in FaZe, but that way.
Yeah. Thorin. How is it to live as a foreigner in the Netherlands, and have you learned any of the language?
I've learned a little bit in as much as like day to day, you just pick things up. I haven't like actively attempted to learn Dutch because you have to realize I live specifically in Amsterdam, which is like everyone speaks English, literally. I would say actually it's awesome to live here. It's not only is it a pretty cool country, but it's easily one of the most welcoming, I would say. Like, put it this way, to contrast it with Germany, which is another spot I could have gone to. I've heard in Germany, it's actually the law that to deal with any government stuff, you have to speak German. Like, you have to get a translator, basically. In the Netherlands, you can just say to the person who's even from the government, like, can you say that in English? And they'll just start speaking it in English. Like, there's no problem whatsoever. So it's one of the reasons why, if no one's ever seen this, I'm not particularly a patriotic person generally, but I sometimes do a tweet where when it's like the Dutch King's Day or whatever, I've done tweets about that publicly because I consider this my adoptive country. So I think it's only polite to actually like follow some of the basic customs and show gratitude to a place that has allowed you to move there. Remember, I have no kind of moral or spiritual right to live on this land. So if they're willing to let me, I think that's fucking awesome. Props to them.
I learned Kloot, Zach. That's about it. That's the only word you really need. But I've been to Amsterdam a lot of times. It's like a cool place. I hear the red light district's kind of shrinking away to nothing. Do you need those dirtbag cards to buy weed yet?
No, you don't need anything.
Because I know weren't they talking about bringing those in? Did they get deferred?
They wanted to do that, but I believe that was like one of those things where it's like, you know, when they push like a political idea out and then there's backlash, so they just peel right back off it. I think it was one of those where they were sort of testing the waters on that. It never happened though.
Yeah. So there you go. Hope that answers your question. Oh, that was from Colger, by the way. Colger, thank you very much. Book Founder 420. This will probably be in Thorin's wheelhouse. But who's a better female CS caster than Pansy?
I mean, basically the answer is no, but I also don't know anyone other than Pansy who's ever tried to be like a full-time CSGO caster in that regard.
Yeah, I mean,
Pansy is very good as well. Forget the just females; she's a very good caster.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think you know, there's like there's a lot of good commentators like just across esports in general that I think would be like well suited to like CS. I also think as well like there's people who have good knowledge about the game that could be used as color casters. You know, I've said it about Miss Harvey, for example. She's got like a lot of game knowledge. You know, she's like won multiple championships. She's somebody that I always wanted to try and get on a desk one day back when I was active in that. I wanted to get her in as an analyst. That was at a time when, you know, back when I was still at E-League. You know, but I think she'd be a great color commentator. But I mean, like, the thing is, I've always had, like, I've been with Pansy right at the start of her CS career. I knew Pansy, I knew Lauren when she was a player in Call of Duty, when she used to be going and competing at top tier Call of Duty 4 tournaments. That was when I met her. And like, there was nobody who was like more dedicated to the craft and learning it at the start. And I think the way the Counter-Strike community treated her was like, it was abominable. She went and she became sort of like, you know, the queen of PUBG. And was treated certainly a lot better by that scene than by ours. So, you know, the question really shouldn't be like, who's a better one? It's like, why don't we have Pansy anymore? Would be a much better sort of question to explore. Because, you know, why did she feel sort of compelled to go and explore another game? You know, same thing that happened to Semler, essentially, where people stop critically analyzing people's ability and they sort of mimetically settle on an assessment of someone's
it's like some stock market thinking about, oh, it's up at the moment, so we have to say it's good, or it's down now, it's terrible, I'll never go with that. Because the sad thing is, she's an example actually of someone where I wish Flashpoint could have happened like 2 years ago. Because if it was up to me, I would hire her tomorrow for Flashpoint as CS. If she's listening to this and she wants to do it, contact me. I can get you on the next season. I don't know whether you can. That's the problem. It seems that you moved on in your career and you do other shit. So be it.
Yeah, I like I say, yeah, totally agree, and I think you know, like it's an ongoing problem that all broadcast talent faces. It's like, you know, it's like when people you hit a tipping point, and it's impossible to kind of get back from that. I warned Henry about it. I warned him about it before he won the Esports Award of Commentator of the Year, and I said to him after that ceremony, I said, "Trust me, mate. It will be downhill from here," and I see more and more hate threads about him. And all he does is go, ooh, and you know what people do is they don't understand that like you shouldn't have the level of insight into someone's kind of like linguistic map, if you want, that you do for on-air talent.
You know, when the fans of our show do it, but in like a joking manner, where they always point out that I say, "Here's the thing, Rich," or like, "Well, the way I see it," you know, like the point is, they, I hope, understand in joking about it. That's just because they've listened to 7 billion hours of us fucking talking. So, like, obviously, you start to notice things you wouldn't if you just met me for the first time. But
it was like
imagine it's worse than that for casters. They're talking for 3 hours in a stretch.
I was going to send Sam this fucking shit boomer meme I saw on Twitter the other day because he's a Liverpool fan, right? And it was like, it was Steven Gerrard, and he starts every sentence with, "Yeah, of course." Like, it's yeah, of course. That's his sort of linguistic tick, right? And everyone has those. When people start hating on people that talk hundreds of hours, like across a broadcast, you know, sometimes the ones like last week's, yes, literally hundreds of hours. Of course, you're going to hear recurring phrases. Of course, you're going to hear certain inflection of voice, a certain syncopation of speech. Of course, you're going to hear certain like reactions. That people are going to react the same way to big plays over and over again. If the tournament's good, you're going to get big plays over and over and over again. So, yeah, I always felt that what people did with certain people, and it's very obvious, by the way, why certain people were targeted in this way. And say, for example, someone like Anders largely gets away with it, but of course he has all the same idiosyncrasies any on-air broadcast talent would have, right? Pansy, just by definition of being a woman. Like, I'm listen, you know me, I'm no fucking white knight in shining armor by any stretch of the imagination, but it's undeniable to me that commensurate to her talent, the abuse she got had to be rooted in the fact she was a woman.
I'd agree, but I'd also throw in, I do think ESL fucked her in the sense that they promoted her so aggressively that it made people think it was like a nepotism scenario. Whereas, sadly, if they'd have just actually kept their fucking nose out, she would have gradually risen up, I think, legitimately, and been just one of the top casters, and there wouldn't have been the, like, but I know what you mean. Definitely the undercurrent is like the sentiment of like, it's a woman, how can she possibly know what she's talking about? But there was also a little bit where it's like, ESL didn't make it any better in that regard, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I you know, on top of that, though, I'll also add that I think when she's been out the scene long enough now that if she come back, I think she would get like most of that would be gone. And it was kind of like what happened with Semler a little bit as well. Why was Semler targeted so much? Well, first of all, he was the number one duo. He was part of the number one duo. Second of all, Semler's like, you know, a guy that, you know, knowing him's completely different, but the persona he puts out with the suits and having a big personality, having been forged in the fire of the good studio, it's like he's like a nice guy, like to talk to and have a beer with. But obviously, he's a showman, so he looks like an arrogant fuck when he's got a mic in front of him. So targeted because of that, of course. Like, it's a lot easier to tunnel in on somebody if you have a perception of them in your head that they're jarring personality wise. So the attacks on Semler were like sort of similarly. It was rooted in something that was related to people's predispositions to almost like immutable qualities of and facets of the personality. So yeah, I think the Counter-Strike community has like a real bad habit of that. I see like Henry getting some of it now. Funnily enough, Launders and Scrawny, who everyone was like loving, like they've been getting some fucking shit at the DreamHack stuff. I've noticed in the chat, mute casters, all of that stuff, and it's just ridiculous. Like, guys, you're never gonna get a broadcast talent that you perfectly like 100%, you know, jive with the entire time. Like, it's not gonna happen. Everyone's gonna do things you don't like. Everyone's gonna have like a little verbal tick that becomes grating and annoying. These people are doing like unbelievable amounts of content. You know, it's definitely about you. And yes, we can have a discussion about who is better at their craft, but you must, your ballpark entry level to that discussion can't be, well, he's fucking shit in it. She's fucking terrible. Worst caster ever. Like, come on, man. You've never heard of the worst caster ever because they never got a fucking job, you idiot. Anyway, Alice the Alchemist. Thorin, do you have a theory as to why players continue not to understand tweets and banter back and forth and immediately devolve into trying to damage your credibility while arguing an argue objection? I think this means fictional points, not factual.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that's like a sociological question. So I would say, first and foremost, it's something I actually tweeted, if everyone remembers, right after Zeus famously came after me. I actually made a video on this topic where I said, listen, I actually understand that pro players, unfortunately, when they themselves take criticism and they perceive themselves as being attacked from all sides, when they lash out, they're going to lash out at people like me, unfortunately, because they're just going to see, like, what they do basically is something that they will never accept responsibility for themselves. So in the same way as, like, we'll just use Device, because it's obviously the topical example this guy's thinking of, right? In the same way as Device would never think to apologize to me for things Astralis fans say, somehow, in his mind, when I say something, anyone who follows my Twitter account or likes me, I'm now responsible for what they do. And I'm supposed to, like, it's my fault that they say something I never would say. It's my fault that they attack him in a way I didn't. Like, there's a total ridiculous double standard there. But I will say, I understand on a human nature level that these people are just wound up and they just lash out. They're doing it in a way that they haven't thought it through consciously. So I would say there's that element. So I would say on that regard, just try and be a little bit understanding of the fact that they're not doing it in a vacuum, are they? Like, they are basically just taking a load of shit themselves and shit rolls downhill. So they go, well, who can I shout out now? Yeah. And since they're all pro players and you all stupidly think they're gods because they can move a crosshair really well, that means I'm always below them. So then they shit on me. And also, I will say this as well. An unfortunate problem my persona has online is because since one of the things I am so famous for is I'm really witty and I'm good at coming up with clapbacks, people almost go to DEFCON 1 from nothing. They never just gradually go up, because what they think's happening is if they go up a little bit, they think I'm going to zing them, right? So they think, well, fuck it. It's like in a scenario of like if you were dealing with the mafia and you thought, right, well, if I do something to them, they'll just kill me. Well, I'll just have to kill all of them, won't I? So they just go as hard as possible out the gate because they think I'm just going to go right at them. So they also will seem like they're like mad overreacting every time they do it, because unfortunately, I think they're anticipating the nuclear clapback, basically. I think that's most of what I've observed.
Yeah, I'm pretty much all in line with that. And it was a question specifically aimed at you, so I'm not going to chime in there. Thanks for the question. That was from Alice the Alchemist. Kirkenpan asks, Thorin, with you having a more active role in the organization of a tournament like Flashpoint, has that experience changed your opinion on the stance of tournament organizers in the CSGO scene, either financially or logistics-wise?
Not really. Like, I know what the question's kind of getting at, but the problem is this, is you have to ask yourself, why did I join Flashpoint? And the reason I joined Flashpoint is, actually, it's very obvious if people have followed this show for many years. I actually feel that at the moment in the scene, if I had to categorize who is the most vulnerable and who is the most exploited, it's actually orgs. It's actually the teams right now, because they're the ones that are footing the bill for everyone else in the entire scene. For the players to play, for the tournament organizers to exist the way they do, and for the game dev to make all that lovely money from the game. So one of the reasons I went to Flashpoint and did this project is I recognized that these orgs are basically in some sort of suicide pact at the moment, where the last one alive will go, actually, I won't kill myself with all that waste of money, and they'll just get to win. So that's no way for anyone to operate a business. So like a lot of the things I've seen have maybe been more exaggerated or more extreme than I thought when I was just an outsider. But a lot of the things that I've noticed are basically things I was aware of anyway, like how tough it is if you're a team, how difficult the margins are, actually how hard it is to even get other teams to do things in their own interest. That's probably one of the most amazing things that you wouldn't realize. You wouldn't believe how many teams publicly say they want to spend money and then just will do everything but spend money. Like, there's a million factors. I'll probably do a whole video or article series on it one day, but we'll wait and see. Because there's the other thing, by the way, that a lot of people won't understand is there'll always be a story coming out of everything I do. So if anyone ever works with me, you can work with me, you can lie to me, you can fuck with me, you can do it. But at the end, here's the one thing I'll always promise. I'll always make sure the public knows. So that it'll all come out. So if everything's great, it'll be a great story. If it's all shit, it'll be a really shit story. But it'll all come out. It'll always come out.
Hang on, I clicked off the
There can't be many left now, is there?
No, there's one. It's the last one.
One more.
So the top NA teams, Liquid, EG, and 100 Thieves, have all been struggling. Who do you expect to make a roster move first? And could the player they kick end up improving one of the rising teams like Gen.G or Cloud9? I mean, actually, I'm surprised. That's from J-Dubs, by the way. I'm surprised you didn't include Gen.G in the top NA team list, maybe instead of 100 Thieves, for example, because I think it's definitely an argument that you can make there. For me, though, what's happening right now is everyone, like, financially is in, like, a mad game of chicken. Like, you know, we're all there can't be any roster moves yet because we don't really know what's going to happen in terms of economy bouncing back, you know, and blah blah, and sponsorships. And
is there even a major?
Yeah, is there even a major? Exactly. I mean, that's like a real thing. Like, you know, without putting too fine a point on it, the situation in Brazil as it relates to COVID-19 isn't great at the moment, and that's before we even get into potential second waves and everything else that's going on. So there's a realistic chance that in November we don't have a major, or we have to move it online, and I can't imagine Valve would ever sign off on that. So why make them, you know, why make the move now? Ultimately, at the end of the day, as long as your team is functioning enough this is another point as well. If you make changes now, well, you're deducted points from those regional major qualifier things. So no one, you know, and we've seen that with Copenhagen Flames, who we talked about earlier. So there's not really any point in making a move right now. It's okay to be bad right now. You've just got to kind of like get through your online commitments, get through your league commitments, get through your tournament commitments, maybe get enough points to get to the major. Most of these teams we're talking about will absolutely do that. Or be there or thereabouts. And actually, it's counterproductive to make a change right now. So I don't think you're going to see anything. I think actually, in terms of roster moves, it's going to be, we've had the roster mania. It's going to be very stagnant now between now and the major would be my bet.
Yeah,
I
I only think that you'll see like the really big teams, e.g. 100 Thieves, Team Liquid make a move if it's in the sense that a player wants to leave and gets an offer elsewhere in a buyout. I think that's the only way you'll see it happening. Like, even though all of those teams have had their struggles, none of them, based on the things I've heard, actually seem to seriously be considering roster moves. They're all just sticking put with the lineup they've got now. And quite frankly, if you look at the whole scene, I would also say, as much as it might seem like wishful thinking to everyone, just basically cross your fingers and pray that this online era doesn't exist and that the second it ends, we're all good on LAN again. It's not even that implausible a line of thinking when you consider how many top teams have fallen heavily off, how many totally unknown random teams are 10 times better now they're playing online. Like, part of me knows that some of these teams must have gotten worse just because the natural flow of things. But I also just think there can't be that many top teams that are suddenly shit. So I have to say, if I was an owner for a legit top 10 team, I'd at least wait until the first lands happen before I make a big move, unless it's like a move that was already an on-paper upgrade. Like, obviously, I'd sign Nico if I was like fucking 100 Thieves or something. But if I'm talking about giving someone up for a risky move, like this guy could be better, I just wouldn't do it. I would just wait and see till we get offline, personally.
There we have it. That's all of the questions. So we'll wrap up the show there. Final shout out, of course, to .com, great sponsor. Go and send it to .com/RLS. Let them know that you came from the show. Let them know that you support the show and you support them for supporting us. They're going to have some news and an announcement. I'll probably talk about it on stream when that happens. Going to try and stream as much as I can between now and my travel date. So, hope everyone enjoyed the show. I saw there was a lot of subscriptions and stuff flying in. Sorry, we never acknowledge those on the show, but do appreciate it. And all that remains to be said is to give a shout out to all of the patrons that resurrected the show in the first place. That includes our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Rekovic on Steam, Kirk and Pan, Alice the Alchemist, and Madams, and our $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, But Pounder 420, Carve, Kafal, Colin Penny, Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Jyse, Colger G, Madsen, Marcus Kiumpar, Miss Alcoholic, Sard Sawar, Sigo, Smoker Gal, Sunmaid Raisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bernasconi, Watch Doge, and Zinged. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to all of you for watching. And until the next episode, take care of yourselves.